The comforting smells of home surrounded me as we entered our pack's land. My heart felt a mix of happiness and excitement. After many hard talks at the Alpha's meeting, I was excited to tell our pack about our success. But I also knew there was still a lot of work to do. Xander held my hand as we walked to the meeting spot. His touch made me feel secure, knowing I wasn't alone. Asher followed a little behind, his presence giving me a sense of calm. As we entered the clearing, a sea of familiar faces turned toward us. The air thrummed with nervous energy and unasked questions. I took a deep breath, squeezing Xander's hand before stepping forward to address our pack. "Hey everyone," I began, my voice going across the crowd. "I bring news from the Alpha meeting. After a lot of talking and arguing, we finally decided." I stopped and looked at the people who had helped me, questioned me, and eventually believed in me to guide them. We've formed a new alliance, one that will unite all the werewolf packs towards a common purpose, and I have been named as the Werewolf Protector. A soft sound spread among the pack members. I noticed a blend of pride, worry, and uncertainty in their expressions. Before I could continue, Xander stepped up beside me. "This is a great honor for Aurora and for our pack," he said, his deep voice reassuring. "But it also brings new duties. We'll need to work even more than before to tackle the upcoming challenges." As the meaning of our words became clear, I saw Jackson and Marcus making their way through the crowd. Their expressions were grim, and my stomach tightened with apprehension. "Aurora, Xander," Jackson called out as they approached. "We've received an urgent message from one of the packs in the north. They're requesting immediate assistance." I exchanged a quick glance with Xander before turning to address the gathered pack members once more. "Thank you all for your trust and support. We'll need to discuss this new development. For now, please return to your duties. We'll keep you informed of any decisions." As the crowd dispersed, I motioned for Xander, Asher, Jackson, and Marcus to follow me to the pack house. Once inside, I called a few other trusted advisors to join us. "What exactly did the message say?" I asked Jackson while we were all sitting at the big table in the meeting room. He took out a wrinkled piece of paper. "It's short, but really important. Hunters are in our area. We have fewer people and less powerful weapons. We need help right away. Please come." The room grew very silent as we considered what this meant. I could feel everyone watching me, waiting to hear what I would say. But this situation wasn't just about me anymore. This was our first test as part of the new council. "We need to consider this carefully," Xander said, breaking the silence. "If we rush in without thinking, we could be putting ourselves at risk." Asher nodded in agreement. "Not to mention, we don't know the full situation. It could be a trap." I listened to their concerns, but something inside me urged action. "I understand the risks," I said slowly, "but this is exactly why the council was formed. We can't preach unity and then ignore a call for help from our neighbors." Celine, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Aurora's right, but we need to be smart about this. A small team, in and out quickly. Assess the situation and provide support if possible." I nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude for her wisdom. "Agreed. Xander, can you organize a team? No more than 5, including you and me." As Xander began discussing team composition with the others, I felt a tug on my sleeve. Clara motioned for me to step aside with her. "Aurora," she said in a low voice, her eyes intense, "I need to tell you something. This morning, during my meditation, I noticed dark shapes shifting in areas where they shouldn't have been, almost like they were out of place. At the same time, I started hearing voices, speaking in languages I didn't recognize. Please be cautious. Not all dangers are visible to the eye." A chill ran down my spine at her words, but I nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Clara. We'll be on our guard." Within the hour, our team was ready to depart. Xander had selected Aiden, a skilled tracker, and 2 of our strongest fighters, Lyra and Ren. As we prepared to leave, I addressed our pack one last time. "We go to aid our neighbors, as we would hope they would do for us. Keep our territory safe in our absence. We'll return as soon as we can." The journey north was tense and silent. I could sense the worry from my packmates, along with their resolve and loyalty. As we moved, I used my senses to feel the ground under my feet and the breeze through the trees. My bond with nature had deepened since I took on the role of protector, and I used it now to look for any signs of trouble. As we got closer to the pack's area, the smell of fear and anger became stronger. We slowed down and moved quietly through the bushes until we could see the open space where the conflict was happening. The sight before us made my heart beat faster. A group of werewolves, some in human form and others partly transformed, stood in a tight circle. Around them were at least a dozen hunters holding advanced weapons I had never seen before. Xander, Aiden, circle around to the left. Asher, Jackson to the right. I'm going to try to talk to them first. Be ready for anything. As my team moved into position, I stepped out of the tree line, my hands raised in a gesture of peace. Stop, I called out, my voice carrying across the clearing. No need for violence, I said. All eyes were on me, and their stares pressed down, heavy and unsettling. A tall hunter with a scar cutting across his face moved closer. Who are you? He demanded, raising his gun in my direction. I kept my voice calm and steady. My name is Aurora. I'm here to mediate this situation. Surely we can find a peaceful resolution. The hunter's eyes narrowed. Aurora? The new werewolf protector? My heart raced. How did they already know about that? I put the question out of my mind and concentrated on the job. Exactly, and I'm here to protect everyone. What's the issue here? As I engaged in a tense dialogue with the hunter leader, I noticed Xander examining their equipment from his hidden position. His eyes opened wide when he noticed a symbol on one of their cars, a fancy eye inside a triangle. He looked at me and gave a small nod. We'd seen that symbol before, in old books about supernatural hunters. This was no ordinary group. The negotiation was tricky, like a careful conversation where each word could decide between peace and conflict. I used all the diplomatic skills I had learned and every bit of charm I could muster. Throughout, I was keenly aware of the power flowing through me, the desire to transform and defend my kind with my sharp teeth and claws. But I held back. This was not just about physical strength. It was about our ability to live together, to find shared ground despite years of distrust and fear. Eventually, after what seemed like a long time, we came to a tentative agreement. The hunters would withdraw, on the condition that the pack agreed to certain territorial restrictions. It wasn't perfect, but it would prevent bloodshed today. As the hunters started to gather their gear, I walked over to the alpha of the pack, a strong-looking woman named Kira. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with relief. "We wouldn't have survived this without your help." I nodded, feeling the importance of my role even more. We're all working together now. The council will need to know about this incident. Kira's eyes widened. The council? Then it's true? A new era has begun? Yes, I confirmed, and as the first test of our unity, I'd say we passed. Barely. As my team regrouped and we prepared to head home, Aiden called out from the edge of the clearing. "Aurora, Xander, you need to see this." We rushed over to find him crouched near a strange marking on a tree. It looked like a claw mark, but larger and deeper than any werewolf could make, and there was a faint acrid scent lingering in the air that set my fur on edge. "What is it?" Jackson asked, his voice hushed. I shook my head, feeling a growing sense of unease in my stomach. I'm not sure, but whatever made this, it's not one of us, and it's not human either. Xander's expression was grim. We need to get back and report this to the council. Now. As we returned to our territory, my mind was whirling. Hunters with advanced knowledge of the supernatural world, strange creatures leaving marks in our forests. Clara's cryptic warning echoed in my mind. Not all dangers are visible to the eye. The peaceful world I'd hoped to build suddenly seemed much further away, obscured by gathering storm clouds of unknown threats. But as I ran alongside my pack, feeling the strength of our bond, I knew we wouldn't face these challenges alone. Back in our territory, Xander, Asher, and I immediately set to work drafting a message to the council members. The words flowed onto the paper, urgent and heavy with implications. To all members of the newly formed Werewolf Council, an urgent situation has arisen that requires our immediate attention. A coordinated group of hunters with advanced technology and knowledge of our world has been encountered. Additionally, evidence of unknown supernatural creatures has been discovered in our territories. We urgently need to gather to discuss these new dangers and create a coordinated plan. The safety of all our packs may be at stake. Signed, Aurora, Werewolf Protector. As I sealed the message, I caught Xander's eye. The determination I saw there matched my own. Whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. For our pack, for all werewolves, and for the fragile peace we were fighting to build. The council was about to face its first true test, and I had a feeling it would be far from the last. I walked back and forth in our group's meeting room, my footsteps making sounds in the quiet and worried atmosphere. We had sent a message to the important people, but the waiting, long and hard, just kept going. Then the door opened. I jumped, my thoughts scattered. Xander rushed in, his face marked by urgency. "Aurora," he gasped, trying to catch his breath. "There's trouble. A group of rogue werewolves has been seen near the southern border." Before I could fully absorb what he said, Asher followed, his normally steady demeanor visibly shaken. "That's not all," he added, voice tight. "Our mystics have detected strange energy fluctuations. They think it might be connected to those unknown creatures we encountered." I felt the weight of leadership settle heavily on my shoulders. We were facing threats from multiple directions, and the council's support was still uncertain. "We need to decide our next move," I said, looking at Xander. "Do we wait for the council's response or take immediate action?" As we discussed our options, Clara entered the room, carrying a talisman who glowed with an unsettling red light. "The spirits are restless," she said, her voice low. "This talisman is a warning. Whatever is coming, it's big." I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. "We can't wait for the council. Asher, take Aiden and a team to check out the rogues. Xander, you and I will stay here to prepare for the council meeting. We need to be ready for whatever's next." As Asher's team prepared to depart, a young werewolf from our pack burst into the room, clutching a handful of scrolls. "Responses from the council," he panted, handing them to me. I quickly scanned the messages, relief washing over me. "They've agreed to an emergency assembly," I announced. "We need to prepare the main hall immediately." While Asher's team headed out, Xander and I threw ourselves into the preparations. We transformed our pack's main hall into a fortified meeting space, setting up protective wards and communication arrays. As we worked, I couldn't help but think about how fast our world had transformed. Just days ago, I had been focused solely on leading our pack and defeating Ryder. Now, I bore the weight of protecting all werewolves. The responsibility was overwhelming, but I was grateful to have Xander by my side. "Aurora," Xander called, interrupting my thoughts. "Sophie's here." I turned to see Sophie, one of our pack's respected alphas, striding into the hall. Her presence was unexpected but welcome. "I came as soon as I heard," she said, her eyes scanning our preparations. "And I bring news. Hunter activity in the north has increased dramatically." Together, we pored over maps, marking the locations of recent supernatural incidents. As we worked, a pattern began to emerge. "Look at this," I said, tracing the connections between the marks. "It forms a symbol." Xander leaned in, his brow furrowed. "That's no ordinary symbol," he muttered. "It's an ancient runic mark. I've seen it in some old texts, but I can't remember its meaning." Before we could discuss it further, the first of the council members began to arrive. The atmosphere in our area became very tense when rival groups met, bringing up old conflicts and showing who was in charge. I could feel their eyes watching me, judging me. As the recently chosen protector, I knew I had to show power and unity, even though I had doubts inside. Just as I was about to call the meeting to order, Asher's team returned. They are half-carried, half-dragged a wild-eyed werewolf between them. "We caught him near the border," Asher reported. "He keeps babbling about something called the Awakening." The captured werewolf's eyes rolled wildly, focusing on nothing. "It comes," he muttered, his voice raspy and strained. "The Awakening, the old powers, returning." Then he collapsed, unconscious. The council members started arguing, raising their voices in a mix of fear and anger. Two alphas from rival packs looked ready to come to blows, their argument about jurisdiction and responsibility growing heated. I stepped between them, my voice cutting through the chaos. "Enough! We face a threat that concerns us all. This is no time for petty rivalries." As I worked to restore order, Asher took the floor, presenting the evidence we'd gathered about the unknown creatures and the hunters' advanced technology. He spoke of energy-dampening fields that could suppress our transformations and silver-infused weapons capable of causing grievous harm to our kind. A hush fell over the meeting as the full scale of the threat became clear. Then, an alpha from a distant northern pack stood up. "We've seen similar occurrences in our territory," he said gravely. "Strange creatures, increased hunter activity, and unexplained magical disturbances. This threat is more widespread than we realized." The reality of our situation settled over the room like a heavy blanket. I could see the fear in their eyes, but also a growing resolve. This was the moment to act. I moved closer, my heart racing but my voice calm. "We are at a crucial point," I started, meeting each council member's gaze. "For too long we've been separated, each pack looking out only for itself. But this threat is too great for any of us to face alone. I propose we form a unified werewolf defense force, combining our strengths and resources to protect all of our kind." My words were met with a mixture of approval and resistance. Several of the older, more traditionalist alphas bristled at the idea of ceding any autonomy. I noticed the political maneuvering starting, with some viewing this crisis as a chance to gain power. During the heated debate, I sensed a slight change in the atmosphere around us. My connection to nature, which had been growing stronger since accepting my role as protector, thrummed with warning. Something was wrong. Before I could voice my concerns, Clara burst into the chamber, her face pale. "The rogue werewolf," she gasped. "He's escaped, but he left something behind." She extended her hand, showing a tiny, finely crafted stone. The moment I saw it, I realized it was much more than just a simple object. It radiated an old, strong energy, and the symbols carved on its surface were faintly glowing. "It's a seal," one of the older leaders whispered, his eyes wide with understanding. "A key to old magic we thought was lost to time." Before anyone could react, the room suddenly became pitch black. Panic grew as werewolves collided in the dark, their keen senses disoriented by the magical blackness. I shut my eyes and attempted to rely on my other senses to grasp the situation. I felt the earth's rhythm under me, the gentle breeze rustling the trees outside. Drawing on this connection, I focused my will on dispelling the darkness. Light burst from my hands, driving back the shadows. As visibility returned, gasps echoed through the chamber. There, crouched in the rafters above us, was a figure shrouded in wisps of dark energy. "Intruder!" someone shouted. Instantly, half a dozen werewolves leaped towards the mysterious observer. But the figure was faster. In a flash, it disappeared so fast that even our sharp senses couldn't catch it. Where it had been, a piece of paper fell gently down. I caught it, my hands trembling slightly as I read the message scrawled in an elegant, archaic script. "The balance shifts. Choose your side wisely, Protector." As the implications of these words sank in, I looked around at the assembled werewolves. Fear, confusion, and determination warred on their faces. At that moment, I understood that everything was different. The old methods, the old conflicts, none of those were important anymore. We were on the edge of something huge, a big change in our world. "Aurora," Xander said quietly, stepping up next to me. "What should we do now?" I took a deep breath, standing tall. "We get ready," I replied, my voice clear in the now quiet room. "Whatever's coming, whatever this awakening is, we face it together. As of this moment, the Werewolf Defense Force is active. We have a lot of work to do." As the council members started organizing, talking about plans and exchanging information, someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned to find myself face to face with Kara, an alpha from a powerful southern pack. Her eyes bored into mine, a challenge clear in her gaze. "Pretty words, Protector," she said, her tone just shy of mocking. "But are you truly ready to lead us all? There are those of us who have centuries more experience, who might be better suited to guide our kind through this crisis." I looked her in the eyes without backing down. I don't say I know everything, Kara. I got chosen for this job, and I'm going to do my best to keep everyone safe." She kept staring at me for a bit longer, then gave a small nod and walked away. I knew there would be my leadership, but I couldn't focus on that right now. There were more pressing matters at hand. I rejoined Xander and Asher, who were deep in discussion about the rogue werewolves. "What did you find at the southern border?" I asked. Asher's expression was grim. "Signs of organized activity," he reported. "These aren't just random loners. They're working together, and they seem to have a purpose. We found this carved into a tree near their camp." He held out a sketch of a symbol, the same runic mark we'd seen formed by the pattern of supernatural incidents on our maps. "It can't be a coincidence," Xander murmured. "This symbol, the seal left by the escaped rogue, the energy fluctuations, it's all connected." I nodded, starting to understand. "It's part of a bigger story," I said. "A prophecy or legend that's happening, and somehow I'm right in the middle of it." As if my words triggered it, I felt a rush of energy. My connection to nature grew stronger, and for a short time I could feel the intricate mix of life and magic around us. It was both beautiful and scary, showing me powers I couldn't fully understand. When that feeling ended, I saw Xander and Asher looking at me with a mix of wonder and worry. "Your eyes," Xander said softly. They were glowing. I took a deep breath, trying to understand what just happened. "My powers are growing," I said, "but I don't fully understand them yet. We need to find out more about this prophecy, about the awakening the rogue werewolf mentioned. It might be the key to everything." As we returned to the council, I couldn't help but feel that we were on the brink of a new era. The old divisions between packs, species, and even between the ordinary and the magical were all becoming less clear. Whatever was coming, it would reshape our world, and as protector, it was my job to ensure that we were ready for it. The future was unclear, full of risks and tough decisions. But when I saw Xander, Asher, and the council members, who were usually at odds, now working as a team, I felt a small spark of hope. We were more powerful and united, and we would need all that power to face the challenges coming our way. As the meeting went on deep into the night, we made plans, formed alliances, and took the first steps toward a united werewolf community. But as we worked, I couldn't forget the mysterious figure's warning. "Choose your side carefully, Protector." I woke up suddenly from a terrifying dream, almost yelling. As I tried to relax, I saw a strange blue light filling the room. I was surprised to see the light was coming from my hands. Before I could understand what was happening, my bedroom door burst open. Xander ran in, his eyes full of concern. "Aurora, are you all right? I heard you cry out, and then I saw this light." His voice slowly faded as he noticed the light coming from my hands. I could see he was both shocked and concerned. "I'm fine," I murmured, even though I wasn't certain. "Just a bad dream, I guess. But this—" I raised my hands where the last bits of blue light were disappearing. "I have no idea what this is." Before Xander could respond, Lily entered, holding a big, leather-covered book. The book had the smell of old paper and magic. "I felt a disturbance," Lily said, her eyes darting between Xander and me, "and then I was drawn to this book in the library. I think it might have answers about the awakening." The three of us huddled around the ancient book as Lily carefully opened it on my bed. The pages were old and fragile, with ink that had faded and strange symbols on them. As we carefully read the confusing text, some phrases seemed to stand out to me. "See this," I said, pointing to a sentence near the end of a page. "It mentions a catalyst who will start a big change with magic. Could that be related to what's happening?" Xander leaned in closer, his brow furrowed in concentration. "It's possible, but what does it mean by revolution? And how does it tie into the awakening the rogue werewolf mentioned?" Before we could delve deeper, Asher burst into the room, his face pale with urgency. "Aurora, we have a problem. Multiple packs are reporting simultaneous attacks by unknown creatures. Shadow-like beings emerge from thin air." A shiver went down my back. Whatever was approaching, it was moving quicker than we expected. "Gather the council," I ordered, slipping into my role as protector. "We need to coordinate our response now." Minutes later, I stood before the magical communication array we had set up in the main hall. As I activated it, shimmering images of alphas from across the continent appeared around me. The air crackled with tension and barely contained fear. "Alphas," I began, trying to project a calm I didn't entirely feel. "We face an unprecedented threat, these shadow creatures. And who are you to lead us against this threat?" Kara's voice cut through the air, her image shimmering with skepticism. "You're barely more than a pup. We need experienced leadership in this crisis." I felt a flare of anger, but before I could respond, Sophie's voice rang out in my defense. "Aurora has proven herself time and again," Sophie said firmly. "Her unique abilities and fresh perspective are precisely what we need in these unprecedented times." As Sophie's impassioned speech swayed several undecided alphas, I felt a surge of gratitude. But I knew I needed to take control of the situation. "Thank you, Sophie," I said, meeting Kara's gaze through the magical projection. "I may be young, but I was chosen for this role. And right now, we need unity more than ever. I propose we create a network of mystical wards across all our territories, linked together to amplify their protective power." As debate erupted over my plan, a piercing alarm cut through the air. Asher's voice came through a communication rune, tight with urgency. "Intruders have breached the outer defenses. They've somehow bypassed the ancient protective spells." My heart raced as I turned to the assembled council. "We'll continue this discussion later. Right now, we need to defend our pack." I quickly gathered a group: Xander, Asher, and, reluctantly, Kara, who insisted on joining to watch over everything. As we hurried to the edge of our area, I felt an unusual energy in the air, making me uneasy. What we discovered at the boundary deeply frightened me. A group of rogue werewolves fought alongside amorphous shadow creatures, moving with unnatural coordination. As one of the shadow beings passed through a tree, I saw the plant wither and die, its connection to nature severed. "Be careful," I shouted to my team. "Don't let the shadow creatures touch you." During the fight, I felt something awaken inside me. Without thinking, I lifted my hands, and streams of cleansing light burst from my hands. The shadow creatures recoiled, dissipating where the light touched them. Xander stared at me in amazement as he grappled with a rogue werewolf. "Aurora, how are you doing that?" "I don't know," I admitted, sending another pulse of light towards a group of shadows. "But let's use it while we can." With my newfound ability tipping the scales, we soon had the upper hand. As the last of the shadow creatures fled, we were left with a handful of captured rogue werewolves. One of them, a young wolf named Eli, glared at me with a mixture of fear and defiance. "You don't understand what you're interfering with," Eli spat. "The awakened are trying to restore the balance, to bring back the old magics that rightfully belong to all supernatural beings." I exchanged a glance with Xander before turning back to Eli. "Tell us more about this awakened group. What exactly are you trying to do?" Eli's eyes gleamed with fervent belief. "There's a ritual at Moonstone Hollow. Once it's finished, it will start a new era, making the magical and ordinary worlds one. We won't need to hide anymore." Lily, who joined us after the fight, was shocked when Moonstone Hollow was mentioned. "I've seen that place in old books," she said. "It's said to be a center of supernatural power, but it disappeared long ago." As Clara talked, I suddenly had a strong vision, like being hit by something real. I saw a circular clearing bathed in moonlight, ancient standing stones humming with power. In the middle, a special ceremony was happening, with dark powers moving and growing stronger. When the ceremony reached its peak, I saw the very structure of reality start to break apart. I suddenly returned to my senses, breathing heavily, and noticed Xander's supportive hand on my shoulder. "Aurora, what did you see?" "Moonstone Hollow," I said, my voice shaky. "I saw the ritual. If it succeeds, the consequences would be catastrophic. We have to stop it." Kara's voice cut through the moment, sharp with skepticism. "And how exactly do you propose we do that? Moonstone Hollow has been lost for centuries. This could easily be a trap." I met her gaze steadily. "It's a risk we have to take. I'm going to lead a team to find Moonstone Hollow and stop this ritual. The rest of you need to coordinate our defenses here, in case this is just a diversion." As my team got ready for the trip, we collected supplies and tried to learn as much as we could about where Moonstone Hollow might be. I felt a big responsibility on my shoulders. Every choice I made could affect not just our pack, but the whole supernatural world. Xander approached me as I was packing my bag. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" he asked quietly. "We're heading into an unknown place, possibly walking right into a trap just because of a vision and what a captured enemy told us." I sighed, meeting his concerned gaze. "I'm not sure of anything anymore, Xander, but I know what I saw in that vision. If we don't stop this ritual, everything we know could be destroyed. I have to try." He nodded, giving my hand a comforting squeeze. "Then we'll face it together." As we prepared to leave, Kara approached, her face reflecting firm resolve. "I'm joining you," she declared. "My centuries of experience could be crucial on this mission." I hesitated, weighing the potential benefits against the tension Kara's presence would undoubtedly bring. But in the end, I nodded. We needed every advantage we could get. Our small team set out as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon. The trip to where we thought Moonstone Hollow might be was tough, as we had to go through dangerous mountain paths and thick, old forests. With every step, I felt the magic in the air become more intense. As we ventured further into the forest, I suddenly sensed a change in the energy around us. The air seemed to shimmer, and for a short time, I saw two scenes: the forest as it normally appeared, and above it, a radiant barrier of pure magic. "Stop!" I called out to the others. "There's some kind of magical barrier here. It must be what's been hiding Moonstone Hollow all these centuries." Kara stepped forward. Her eyes narrowed as she examined the barely visible barrier. "Impressive," she murmured. "This is old magic, far beyond what any of us can typically wield. Breaking through won't be easy." "Aurora," Xander breathed, looking around in amazement. "What did you do?" "I'm not completely certain," I confessed, "but I think we're in." As we made our way deeper into this magically hidden realm, the signs of ancient power grew more prominent. We passed standing stones covered in glowing runes, and more than once I caught glimpses of strange creatures watching us from the shadows. Finally, we crested a hill and found ourselves looking down into a moonlit clearing that matched my vision perfectly. In the center, a group of robed figures were arranged around a central altar, dark energies already beginning to swirl. "We're too late," Kara hissed. "The ritual has already begun." I felt a surge of determination. "No," I said firmly, "we can still stop this. We have to." As we prepared to intervene, I caught sight of a familiar face among the robed figures. Eli, the young werewolf we had captured earlier. He must have gotten away and found his way here. But as I watched him take part in the ceremony, I didn't see the crazy look I was expecting. Instead, I noticed fear and uncertainty in his eyes. At that instant, I realized the complexity of the situation unfolding before me. The awakened weren't just adversaries, they truly felt justified in their actions, despite the nature of their methods. "Hold on," I called out, gently raising my hand. "Let me give this a shot first." Without waiting for their protests, I boldly moved into the open space, my arms extended high in a peaceful gesture. "Please, stop the ritual," I yelled, my voice echoing in the sudden quiet that had surrounded us. "You don't understand what you're getting into." The leader of the ceremony, a tall person with sharp eyes, turned to look at me. "And who are you to stop the return of ancient magic?" he asked. I took a deep breath, feeling the power inside me ready to face this challenge. "I am Aurora, the werewolf protector, and I am the catalyst your prophecies speak of. But this ritual isn't the way to bring balance. It will only bring destruction." A murmur ran through the assembled awakened. I could see doubt and hope warring on their faces. Eli stepped forward, his eyes wide. "Is it true?" he asked. "Are you really the catalyst?" In response, I let my power flow freely, filling the clearing with the same blue light that had emanated from my hands that morning. The dark energies of the ritual faltered, then began to dissipate. "I am," I said, keeping my voice calm, "and I assure you, there's another way to fix the balance between the magical and ordinary worlds. But we must cooperate, not destroy everything." For a short time, the area was quiet, except for the soft buzz of magical forces. Then, gradually, the leader of the awakened lowered his hands, and the final energy of the ritual disappeared. "Maybe," he said thoughtfully, "we've been too quick in our actions. If you truly are the catalyst, we would hear what you propose." The air in Moonstone Hollow was filled with tension as I stood between my team and the awakened. The moonlight made the clearing glow softly, and long shadows stretched from the old standing stones around us. I took a deep breath, realizing that my next words could determine if we would have peace or conflict. "We're here to discuss things," I said, maintaining a steady voice despite feeling anxious inside. "It's time we work together to find a solution." Cyrus, the leader of the awakened, stepped closer. His dark eyes looked straight at me, trying to see if I was being honest. "Nice words," he said, his voice sounding deep and a little rough. "But why should we trust you? You, who have hunted us, who have stood in the way of our goals." I got upset by what he said, but I didn't let it affect me too much. It wasn't the right time to start explaining myself. Because I'm offering you a chance at what you really want, I replied. A way to restore balance without tearing our world apart. For a long moment, Cyrus said nothing. Then, almost imperceptibly, he nodded. A temporary truce, he conceded. Catalyst, if this is a trick, there will be consequences, he reminded me. As the tension in the open area eased slightly, I spotted some movement from the corner of my eye. Eli, the young werewolf we had captured earlier, was approaching me hesitantly. His eyes were wide with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. Is it true? Eli asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Are you really the catalyst? What does it mean for people like me? I felt a pang of sympathy for Eli. He was so young, caught up in events far beyond his understanding. I'm still figuring that out myself, I admitted. But I promise you, Eli, we're going to find a way forward that works for everyone. No more hiding, no more fear. As I spoke with Eli, I was aware of Xander moving around the perimeter of the clearing. He was setting up a secure boundary, enlisting both our pack members and some of the more cooperative awakened. I felt a surge of gratitude for his foresight. We couldn't afford any surprises right now. Kara, who always speaks her mind, had managed to corner Cyrus and was quickly asking him a series of questions. I could see the wisdom in her eyes from all her years of experience as she carefully examined his answers, looking for any mistakes or secret plans. Just as I was about to step in, everything around me started to blur. A vision slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. I saw flashes of ancient rituals, forgotten magic swirling through primordial forests. Faces of long-dead shamans and seers flickered before my eyes, their lips moving in silent incantations. I stumbled, my knees going weak. Before I could fall, I felt strong arms catching me. Xander's familiar scent enveloped me as he steadied me. Aurora? Xander's voice was tight with concern. What did you see? I'm not sure, I said, but I think I saw the ancient magic, the kind the awakened are trying to bring back. Before I could explain more, there was a noise at the edge of the open space. I looked up and saw Lily rushing toward us, carrying a bunch of books. Behind her came a group of reinforcements from our pack, their eyes darting warily around the gathered awakened. Aurora! Lily called out, slightly out of breath. I brought the book from your room and several others I thought might be relevant. There's so much we need to decipher. As Lily approached, I felt a strange pull coming from the center of the clearing. My eyes were drawn to the altar where the awakened had been performing their ritual. There was something there, something hidden. Without fully understanding why, I walked towards the altar. The sounds around me turned into a gentle hum as I focused on the strange energy I was sensing. As I extended my hand, I heard a click similar to a key unlocking a door. The ground close to the altar started to move, uncovering a concealed staircase that descended into the dark. A secret room, I whispered, feeling both thrilled and nervous. Cyrus was by my side right away, his eyes wide. We never found out about this in all our studies, he said, sounding amazed. I turned to the gathered group. Xander, Kara, Cyrus, come with me. The rest of you, stay here and keep things under control. As we went down into the room, the air became heavy with old magic. The walls were full of detailed pictures showing scenes I had seen in my dream. I saw people who I knew were the past catalysts, helping the magical and normal worlds work together. We had just started looking at the pictures when I felt a change in the energy around us. Before I could say anything, a glowing wall appeared, keeping me away from the others. Aurora! Xander's voice sounded faint because of the wall. I could see him pounding against it, but to no avail. I was about to reassure him when a figure materialized before me. It was translucent, glowing with an inner light, a spectral guardian of some kind. Catalyst, the voice echoed in my mind rather than my ears. You have come at last. Are you ready to confront the reality of your fate? I stood tall, looking the guardian directly in the eyes. I am, I replied, amazed at the confidence in my voice. Show me what I must know. What came next was a rush of information and images, filling my mind quicker than I could fully grasp. I saw the delicate relationship between the magical and ordinary worlds, and the consequences of upsetting that balance. I finally understood the real role of the catalyst, not just to expose the magical world, but to oversee its careful, gradual merging with the ordinary world. When the visions finally stopped, I was on my knees, struggling to breathe. The barrier was gone, and Xander was by my side immediately, his strong hands helping me stand up. "Aurora, are you all right? What happened?" Xander's voice was thick with worry. I managed a shaky smile. "I'm okay," I assured him, "and I think I know what we need to do." As I said this, my eyes caught sight of a pedestal I hadn't seen earlier. On it was a glowing object, a key, it seemed, that was pulsating with magical energy. "But the key of harmony," the voice echoed one last time before fading away. "Use it wisely, Catalyst." As I reached for the key, I heard a commotion from above, raised voices, the sound of a scuffle. Xander and I exchanged a worried glance before hurrying back up the stairs, Cyrus and Kara close behind. We emerged into chaos. Lily, Aiden, and Asher were struggling to keep order as tensions between pack members and Awakened threatened to boil over. At the center of it all stood Eli, his hands raised, a faint magical aura surrounding him. "Stop!" Eli's voice rang out, surprisingly authoritative for one so young. "This isn't what any of us want." As if in response to Eli's words, a shadow creature materialized at the edge of the clearing. It was like the ones we had fought before, but larger, drawn by the concentration of magical energy. For a moment, everyone froze. Then, instinct took over. "Cyrus!" I called out, hefting the key of harmony. "We need to work together." Cyrus didn't hesitate. He nodded sharply, then began weaving a complex spell. I felt the magic of the key resonating with his efforts, amplifying them. Together, we created a barrier of pure magical energy, driving the shadow creature back. As the immediate threat faded, I realized a more danger was present. The unsuccessful ritual earlier had weakened the boundaries between different realms. A rift was forming, reality itself threatening to tear apart. "Everyone," I shouted, raising the key high. "Lend me your strength." It was a desperate gamble, but, to my relief, both pack members and Awakened responded. I felt their energy flowing into me, channeled through the key of harmony. With a final push, I directed that combined power at the growing rift. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the tear began to close. Reality knit itself back together, the boundaries between worlds stabilizing once more. When the last bit of magical energy faded, I lowered the key, feeling completely worn out. Xander quickly came over, holding me up as my legs almost gave out. "That," Kara said flatly, "was way too close for my liking." I couldn't help but agree. As the adrenaline faded, I looked around at the gathered supernatural beings. Pack members and Awakened alike looked shaken, but there was something else in their eyes now. A grudging respect, a dawning realization that we were stronger together than apart. Lily approached, her arms still full of ancient tomes. "Aurora," she said excitedly. "I think I've figured out part of the prophecy. It mentions a council. A meeting of representatives from all packs. This council is meant to oversee the merging of our worlds." I nodded slowly, the pieces falling into place. "That makes sense," I said. "We can't just reveal everything all at once. It needs to be gradual, carefully managed." Cyrus, who had been listening intently, spoke up. "And who would sit on this council? Who decides for all of us?" I didn't have an answer to the question, but as I looked at the different people in Moonstone Hollow, I started to think of a solution. "All of us," I said firmly. "Representatives from every faction, every race. No group can control this process. It has to be a true collaboration." My words received a mix of responses. Some people agreed, others were unsure, but no one openly disagreed, which I saw as a positive sign. As the conversation went on, I slowly edged closer to the open space. The sky started to brighten, showing the first hints of morning on the horizon. I stood there, holding the key of harmony, and tried to imagine the future we were moving toward. It wouldn't be simple. Years of hiding and distrust couldn't be fixed quickly. But for the first time since I became the werewolf protector, I felt a genuine sense of hope. I heard footsteps behind me and turned to see Xander walking over. He stood beside me, his presence comforting and steady as always. "So," Xander said softly, "a new chapter begins." I nodded, leaning into him slightly. "A new chapter for all of us." I agreed. Werewolves, Awakened, humans, we're all in this together now. As if in response to my words, I felt the key pulse in my hands. I lifted it, watching as its glow seemed to reach out, touching each person in the clearing. For a brief instant, I could see the magical connections between us, like a network of potential and opportunity. It won't be simple, I mentioned, echoing my previous concerns. There will be opposition, fear, and miscommunication. But this is the path forward, the only path that doesn't end in destruction. Xander took my hand and gave it a soft squeeze. No matter what happens, he said, we'll handle it side by side. I looked at him and saw the strong support in his eyes. Beyond him, I could see the others, Kara and Asher, Lily with her books, Cyrus and the Awakened, young Eli with his newly discovered powers, all of them looking to me, waiting for guidance. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on my shoulders. This was the real job of the Catalyst, not just to show the supernatural world, but to help it move into a new time of living together and getting along. As the first true rays of sunlight broke over the horizon, painting Moonstone Hollow in gold, I straightened my spine and lifted the key of harmony high. Let's begin, I said, my voice carrying across the clearing. We have a world to change. The group of supernatural beings, once enemies but now cautious friends, came closer, pulled by the energy of the moment. As we stood there, surrounded by the light of a new day, I felt a deep sense of certainty. No matter what difficulties we faced, we would handle them as a team. A new time was beginning, and I, Aurora, the werewolf protector and catalyst, would be at the front. The road ahead was unclear, full of possible problems and risks. But when I looked at the people around me, I knew we had made the first important move. The magical and ordinary worlds would find balance, not by fighting or controlling each other, but by learning from and working with each other. It would be a long trip, but standing in Moonstone Hollow, holding the key of harmony and surrounded by my allies, I was prepared to take that first step into our new future. As the tension in the open space started to lessen, I felt a deep sense of relief, along with some worry. We had avoided the immediate danger, but I knew that the real challenges were just starting. But as I looked at my team, Xander, Asher, Aiden, and even Kara, and saw the faces of the Awakened, is now filled with cautious hope, I felt a glimmer of optimism. As I let go of the key of harmony, I felt completely drained, like a wave crashing over me. The first light of morning started to brighten the open space, making long shadows on everyone gathered there. The golden light felt like the start of a new time, one that I now had to guide. The thought of that responsibility made me feel even more tired from the night's work. I glanced around at the faces around me, werewolves and Awakened, who had been fighting just hours before. Now they looked at me with a mix of wonder, doubt, and hopeful caution. It reminded me of how fast things had changed and how easily this new peace could be broken. Xander moved closer, putting a comforting hand on my shoulder. His touch brought warmth and helped me focus on the moment. I leaned a bit toward him, thankful for his steady support. "You did it, Aurora," he murmured, his voice filled with pride and something deeper, something that made my heart skip a beat despite my exhaustion. Before I could respond, Lily approached us, her arms laden with ancient tomes. Her eyes were full of excitement, which was very different from how tired I felt. "Aurora, you won't believe what I've found," Lily said, her voice quiet but full of energy. "These books, they speak of the prophecy in much greater detail. And there's more about the council, the one you're meant to form." I straightened up, my fatigue momentarily forgotten. "Tell me everything, Lily," I urged. As Lily began to explain her discoveries, I noticed Cyrus, the Awakened leader, watching us intently. His stance was different now, less confrontational, more open. After a moment's hesitation, he approached our small group. "Catalyst," Cyrus addressed me, his voice low. "I believe we have much to discuss." I nodded and motioned for him to come over. As Cyrus, Xander, and I gathered close, I couldn't help but be amazed at how fast things were changing. Just a few hours earlier, we were almost at war. Now we were planning for a shared future. Our hushed conversation was interrupted by the arrival of young Eli. The werewolf with newly discovered powers approached timidly, his hands still shimmering with faint magical energy. I gave him an encouraging smile, thinking back to my own confusion and fear when I first learned about my role as the catalyst. "Eli?" I asked gently, "How are you doing?" Eli's eyes darted between me and the key of harmony. I don't know," he admitted. "Everything's changed so fast. What does this mean for people like me?" "It means you're part of the new world we're creating," I said to reassure him. Your powers, they're a gift, and we're going to help you understand and control them." As I spoke with Eli, I noticed Kara taking charge of the situation around us. She was organizing the pack members, directing them to secure the perimeter of Moonstone Hollow. To my surprise and relief, I saw the Awakened beginning to assist, following Cyrus's lead. Recognizing that there was still a lot of work ahead, I focused again on the key of harmony. The secret room under the altar had to be locked. We couldn't let its hidden knowledge end up in the wrong people's hands. I approached the entrance, feeling the key pulse with energy in my grasp. As I raised the key, instinct took over. Words in an ancient language I didn't recognize spilled from my lips. A soft golden light emanated from the key, enveloping the entrance to the chamber. Gradually, the entrance started to close, the stone coming together until the hidden room was completely gone. I looked at the smooth ground, feeling a mix of amazement and fear. The power I now have was exciting, but also scary. I silently promised to use it carefully, for the benefit of everyone. Turning back to everyone, I saw Asher moving among them, tending to those who had been injured during the earlier confrontation. Both werewolves and awakened beings appreciated his help, and this act of working together helped to bring the two groups closer. This made me think of a plan. We should use this time of unity to start building a foundation for long-lasting peace and teamwork. I raised my voice, calling out to everyone present. "Please gather around the standing stones," I requested, my voice carrying across the clearing. "We have much to discuss." As everyone formed a circle around the ancient monoliths, I felt the key of harmony pulse gently in my hands. It felt like it matched the energy of the group, making my words stronger as I started to talk. "Tonight we saw how powerful we are when we come together," I said, looking at everyone's faces. "We faced a challenge together and became even stronger because of it. But our job isn't finished yet. In fact, it's only just beginning." I nodded to Lily, who stepped forward with her scrolls and books. As she started sharing her discoveries, I observed the people around me. Their eyes grew wide with surprise, their brows wrinkled in deep thought, and their heads nodded in agreement as Lily uncovered the real story of our shared past. "For too long, we've let fear and doubt separate us," I said after Lily was done. "But these ancient texts show us that we're more connected than we ever realized. And now, we have a chance to reclaim that connection, to build a world where all supernatural beings can coexist in harmony." Cyrus stepped forward then, his eyes meeting mine. I nodded, encouraging him to speak. Together, we outlined our proposal for the formation of a council, a governing body that would represent all supernatural factions and oversee the gradual merging of our world with the human realm. As we spoke, I could feel the energy in the clearing shift. People agreed quietly and talked about their worries. Some nodded happily, but others folded their arms, showing they were doubtful. Xander, feeling the rising tension, came to stand next to me. His presence alone seemed to calm some of the more agitated individuals. "I know this sounds like a radical change," Xander said, his deep voice resonating through the clearing. "And it is, but I've seen firsthand what Aurora is capable of. The catalyst can help us make this change smoothly, making sure no group gets left out or treated unfairly. This is our opportunity to build a better world for everyone." Xander's words had a strong impact, especially on the werewolves. I could see some of the more hesitant individuals beginning to soften their stances. But as the implications of our proposal sank in, a heated debate broke out among the gathered supernaturals. Who gets to sit on this council? How do we ensure fair representation? What about smaller supernatural groups? The questions kept coming, one after another, and the voices became louder and more intense. I could sense that the delicate peace we had created was starting to break down. Instinctively, I raised the key of harmony. A soft, pulsing light emanated from it, washing over the crowd. As the light touched each being, I could see tension easing from their bodies, their voices lowering to a more reasonable volume. "These are all valid concerns," I said, my voice calm but firm. "And they're exactly the kind of issues the council will address. We won't solve everything tonight. Well, the key thing is that we're ready to cooperate, to hear each other out, and to come up with solutions that help everyone." As if to emphasize my point, Eli stepped forward, The young werewolf's hands began to glow with magical energy. Before our eyes, small illusions sprang to life, dancing around the clearing. Butterflies made of pure light fluttered among us, while miniature Aurora Borealis shimmered overhead. The display served as a powerful reminder of the magic we all shared, regardless of our differences. I saw smiles breaking out among the crowd, the earlier tension dissipating in the face of such beauty. Inspired by Eli's display, I felt a sudden urge to use the key of harmony. Guided by an unseen force, I raised the key high. A beam of light shot from its tip, expanding outward to create a shimmering three-dimensional map in the air above us. Gasps of awe echoed through the clearing as we all stared at the magical representation. Glowing lines crisscrossed the map, connecting Moonstone Hollow to other supernatural hotspots around the world. It was a vivid illustration of how interconnected we truly were. "These are ley lines," I explained, the knowledge flowing through me from some unknown source. "They connect places of power across the globe. We're not alone in this. There are supernatural communities all over the world, facing the same challenges we are. By working together, we can create a network of support and understanding that spans the entire planet." As the map faded away, I saw Kara and Asher moving through the crowd. They were organizing small mixed groups of werewolves and awakened for joint patrols. It was a small step, but an important one in fostering teamwork and trust between our factions. While this was happening, Lily had returned to her books. Suddenly, she let out an excited gasp. "Aurora, Cyrus, Eli, come quick," she called out. We hurried over to where Lily was poring over an ancient text. "I've found a ritual," she explained breathlessly. "It's designed to strengthen the boundaries between realms. If we perform it, it could help prevent any more incursions like the one we faced earlier." I exchanged glances with Cyrus and Eli. Without saying anything, we knew what we had to do. When the three of us came together around the text, I felt a rush of energy from the key of harmony. It was like the artifact understood what we were going to try and was giving us its strength. Following Lily's instructions, we began the ritual. Cyrus's deep voice chanted in an ancient language, while Eli and I channeled our energy through the key. The air near us started to sparkle and move with magical power. When we got to the most important part of the ceremony, a very bright light burst out from the key of harmony. It grew into a big round shape covering all of Moonstone Hollow. For just a short time, a sparkling wall could be seen all around the place, but then it disappeared. As the light went away, I noticed a change in the feeling of the place. The air seemed clearer somehow, more stable. As I glanced around, I noticed that everyone also felt it. A wave of relief spread through the crowd as we all felt safer. Tired but excited, I knew it was time to end this important meeting. I spoke to the group one last time, explaining the next steps in our plan to work together and slowly introduce the supernatural world to humans. "This is only the beginning," I said, my voice filled with determination. "We have a long way ahead, but I believe that together we can build a world where all beings, both supernatural and human, can live in peace. It won't be simple and we'll face challenges, but if we stay united and hold on to the sense of togetherness we felt tonight, there's nothing we can't achieve." As I finished speaking, I noticed people nodding and looking determined. The sun had fully risen, casting a golden glow over Moonstone Hollow, which seemed like a perfect symbol for the new beginning we were starting. After the meeting ended, I found myself surrounded by a small group of people. Xander, Kara, Lily, Cyrus, and Eli gathered around me. As we stood there, I realized that this group represented the core of what would become our new council, a perfect balance of different supernatural factions and abilities. The key of harmony, still clutched in my hand, began to glow brightly. Its light enveloped our small circle, sealing our commitment to this new path. As the comforting warmth surrounded me, I felt a deep sense of purpose, like my destiny was being fulfilled. I looked at each person in front of me, Xander's strong support, Kara's wise guidance, Lily's energetic spirit, Cyrus's recent openness, and Eli's youthful promise. I knew that no matter what difficulties we faced, we would face them as a team. As the light from the key dimmed, I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my responsibilities settle more easily on me. Being the catalyst was tough, but standing here with my friends and feeling hopeful about the future, I knew I was prepared for whatever might happen. The sun was up high, signaling the start of a fresh day in the world of the supernatural. As they began to leave, making arrangements and forming new bonds, I couldn't help but smile. This was just the start, but what a start it was. The road ahead was uncertain, full of potential obstacles and challenges. But for the first time since I'd discovered my role as the werewolf protector and catalyst, I felt truly prepared to face it. I woke up to the gentle light of the Key of Harmony, which was still on my bedside table. Its soft glow quietly reminded me of all the recent changes. Sunlight came through the window, warming the room and shining on the map of Moonstone Hollow that was pinned to my wall. The map was covered with notes and small markers, showing how busy and complicated things had become. I rubbed my eyes sitting up, then looked at the time. I had slept for a long time, that my body finally gave in to the exhaustion accumulated this past week, creating the council, holding the ceremony to protect the borders between the worlds, and attending all those meetings and planning. It was very exhausting. A soft knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. "Come in," I called, expecting Xander. Xander entered, carrying a tray with breakfast. The sight and smell of food made my stomach growl. I couldn't remember the last time I ate a good meal. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Xander greeted with a warm smile. Or should I say good afternoon? I blinked in surprise. Afternoon? How long was I out? Xander set the tray across my lap and sat down beside the bed. "You've been asleep for nearly 2 days without waking up," he said, his voice filled with about equal amounts of concern and relief. "We were getting worried, but Lily was sure we should let you keep resting." 2 days. The realization hit me like a physical blow. 2 days? I echoed, my mind racing. What have I missed? The council meeting. "Hasn't happened yet," Xander assured me, placing a calming hand on my arm. "We've been preparing, getting everything in order, but we all agreed that nothing official would happen until you were fully recovered." "Thank you," I whispered, looking into Xander's eyes. The warmth and understanding I saw there made my heart skip a beat. As I began to eat, Xander told me what had been going on while I was asleep. The pack had been working non-stop, setting up communication with other supernatural groups, preparing proposals for the council, and strengthening the magical protections around Moonstone Hollow. I was nearly finished eating when the door burst open, and Lily dashed in, brimming with excitement. She clutched a pile of books and scrolls, and her eyes sparkled with joy from her new discovery. "Aurora, you're awake!" Lily shouted, and then quickly started explaining her latest findings. "I found something important in my research," she said, pointing to the books in her hands. "These books show there could be more catalysts in different parts of the world." I almost choked on my last bite of toast. "Other catalysts?" I repeated, my mind reeling at the implications. Lily nodded enthusiastically. "Yes. The texts are vague, but they suggest that in times of great change, multiple catalysts may arise in different parts of the world. We might not be alone in this, Aurora." The idea was both exciting and scary. On one side, it was great to think that others might understand my situation and could share this giant burden. On the other side, if there were other catalysts, why hadn't they shown themselves? And what did it mean for our plans moving forward? "We need to discuss this with the others," I said, throwing off my blankets. "Xander, can you gather everyone in the main room?" Within minutes, we were in what had become our makeshift command center. The packhouse's main room had been transformed, every surface covered with maps, communication devices, and magical artifacts. It looked like a cross between a military war room and a wizard's study. Kara arrived just as Lily was finishing her explanation about the potential other catalysts. The older werewolf's face was grim, and I could tell she had news of her own. "We've got a situation," Kara said without preamble. "There's been increased supernatural activity in the neighboring towns. Nothing major yet, but it's more than we've seen in years." I frowned, a suspicion forming in my mind. Could it be related to the ritual we performed? The one to strengthen the boundaries around Moonstone Hollow? Kara nodded. "That's my theory. We've made this place more stable, more secure. But in doing so, we might have pushed the instability outward." Before we could discuss this further, Cyrus entered the room. I felt the atmosphere tense immediately. Despite our newfound alliance, years of mistrust couldn't be erased overnight, but Cyrus either didn't notice or chose to ignore the reaction, instead focusing on me. "Catalyst," Cyrus greeted me with a nod. "I bring news. The Awakened have discovered an ancient ritual site not far from here. We believe it could be useful for future council meetings." As Cyrus described the site, I noticed young Eli step forward. The young werewolf had been quiet until now, but suddenly Eli's hands began to glow with magical energy. Before our eyes, a detailed illusion of the ritual site Cyrus had described sprang to life in the center of the room. We all stared in amazement. Eli's progress with his newfound abilities was astonishing. The illusion was amazingly detailed, showing not only the physical layout of the place but also the movements of magical energy inside it. "Eli, that's spectacular," I whispered, reaching out to touch the illusion. My hand went through it, but I could feel the magical energy lightly touching my skin. Eli beamed at the praise, but before anyone could comment further, a shrill alarm cut through the air. I recognized it immediately. It was the magical alert system we'd set up around the borders of Moonstone Hollow. "Something's breached the outer perimeter," Xander said, already moving towards the door. I picked up the key of harmony from the table beside me, feeling its reassuring warmth in my hand. "Let's move," I said, and together, our group hurried out to check it out. We got to the edge of territory faster than ever, the key of harmony shining brightly in my hand. But what we saw wasn't the danger we had expected. Instead, several tired-looking supernatural creatures were gathered just outside the town's magical boundary, their eyes filled with a mix of hope and fear. "Please," one of them, a gaunt-looking fae, stepped forward. "We seek refuge. We were drawn here by the stability of your magical energy. Our homes have become unstable." I exchanged a look with Kara, seeing my earlier suspicion confirmed in her eyes. Our actions had indeed had far-reaching consequences. Without hesitation, I raised the key of harmony. The artifact seemed to understand my intentions, its glow intensifying. A shimmering dome of energy expanded from the key, encompassing the refugees in its warm light. As the dome touched each being, I could see relief wash over their faces, tension draining from their bodies. "Welcome to Moonstone Hollow," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "You're safe now." After that, there was a lot of busyness. Xander led the group in helping the new people, finding them places to stay for now and making sure they had what they needed right away. Kara began interviewing them, gathering crucial intelligence about conditions in the outside world. Meanwhile, Lily had her nose buried in one of her books, muttering excitedly to herself. "Aurora!" She called out suddenly, "You need to see this." I made my way over to her, curious. "What is it, Lily?" "These refugees," Lily said, pointing to a passage in her book. "Their arrival, it's foretold in this prophecy. Look." I leaned in, reading the ancient text. My eyes opened wide as I understood what it meant. "Moonstone Hollow is supposed to be a safe place," I whispered. Lily nodded enthusiastically. "Not just for us, but for supernatural beings from all over. The prophecy speaks of a haven, a place of learning and unity in times of great change." As I pondered this new information, I noticed Cyrus approaching. The awakened leader had been working with some of his people to assess the magical capabilities of the refugees. "Catalyst," Cyrus said, his voice low. "We need to discuss the town's defenses. If more refugees come, and I believe they will, we need a way to distinguish between those genuinely seeking help and potential threats." I nodded, seeing the wisdom in his words. Together, Cyrus and I began to work on modifying the magical barriers around Moonstone Hollow. It was intricate work, requiring a delicate balance of power and intention. But with Cyrus's knowledge and my connection to the Key of Harmony, we made steady progress. While we were working, I noticed Eli sitting with a young refugee girl who seemed to be no older than 12 or 13. They were having a serious talk, and I could see small flashes of magic moving around their hands. It seemed Eli had found a kindred spirit, someone else with emerging magical abilities. The sight warmed my heart, but it also drove home the responsibility we now faced. Moonstone Hollow wasn't just our home anymore. The place was turning into a source of hope for supernatural creatures all over, a spot where they could feel secure and learn to manage their powers. This thought led to a strong discussion within our new council. The idea of welcoming refugees and possibly revealing our presence to the human world was a big deal. People spoke loudly, disagreements were everywhere, and for a while I worried we might break the delicate unity we had built with so much effort. I took a deep breath and held up the key of harmony. A wave of calming energy washed over the room, not suppressing the debate but tempering the heightened emotions. "I get everyone's worries," I said, speaking loudly, so my voice could be heard over the quieter noise. "This isn't an easy choice to make, but we can't just pretend nothing is happening. There are supernatural beings in trouble, and we have the tools to assist them." I glanced around the room, making eye contact with each person. "Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it will be challenging. But isn't this exactly what we formed this council for? To face these challenges together, to find a way forward that benefits all supernatural beings?" Slowly, heads began to nod. The atmosphere in the room relaxed as people started talking about actual solutions instead of arguing over imaginary scenarios. By the time evening arrived, we had agreed on a plan. Moonstone Hollow would indeed become a sanctuary, but with strict protocols in place for integration and secrecy. Xander and Kara immediately set to work drafting plans for expanding the town's infrastructure, while Lily and Cyrus began collaborating on a magical census system to keep track of our growing supernatural population. As the others dispersed to begin implementing our plans, I found myself drawn to the edge of town. The key of harmony hummed with energy in my hand as I stood there, gazing out at the darkening forest beyond our borders. Lifting the key, I started to strengthen our magical defenses, putting all my focus and purpose into the job. While I worked, I couldn't stop thinking about how fast everything was shifting. Just a few weeks ago, I was trying to figure out my role as the werewolf protector. Now I was the catalyst, not only in charge of my pack, but also for the destiny of the whole supernatural world. The burden of that duty was huge, sometimes almost too much to handle. While I was there, enjoying the beauty of Moonstone Hollow, I felt very sure about something. This was the direction I was supposed to go, the person I was supposed to become. I remembered the refugees we had helped before, and the hope I saw in their eyes when they reached our safe spot. I thought of Eli and the young girl, learning to control their gifts together. I thought of my friends, Xander, Kara, Lily, even Cyrus, all working tirelessly to build something greater than themselves. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with potential dangers and difficult decisions, but we would face those challenges together, and in doing so, we would forge a new future for all supernatural beings. As the last of the magical energy settled into place, strengthening our borders once more, I lowered the key of harmony. The night was calm and peaceful, but I knew this was just the quiet before things got tough. Tomorrow would bring new people needing help, new problems, and new chances. But right now, at this moment, I let myself relax. I felt the special energy in the air and enjoyed the beautiful sky full of stars above Moonstone Hollow. Tomorrow will arrive soon, bringing its set of challenges. Tonight, I would sleep, getting ready for the challenges ahead. I woke up to the sound of laughter and happy talking coming through my open window. For a moment, I stayed still, enjoying the calm feeling that had become usual in Moonstone Hollow. It was very different from the worry and fear that had affected here a few weeks ago. As I walked outside, I saw all kinds of magical creatures working together, making our small place even better. Werewolves and fairies were side by side, building new houses. Witches and vampires were happily talking as they took care of a shared garden. It was everything I had wished for, and even more. "Aurora!" Xander called, and I turned to see him running towards me with some papers under his arm. He looked really excited. "I have something to show you." We went to the town hall, where Xander spread out the papers on a big table. It was a detailed infrastructure plan for Moonstone Hollow's expansion. "Look," Xander said, pointing to different areas on the map. "We've designated spaces for each supernatural community. There's a forest area for the fairies, underground caves for the dwarf groups, and a hidden place for the vampire group." I was amazed by how detailed the plan was. It wasn't just about finding places for everyone. It was about making a home that respected and celebrated each group's special needs and traditions. "Xander, this is amazing," I said, holding his hand tightly. The kindness in his eyes made my heart skip a beat. Our moment was cut short when Lily rushed into the room, her arms full of scrolls and her eyes shining with excitement. "Aurora! Xander, the census system is working perfectly," Lily exclaimed, spreading out her scrolls. "Look at these numbers. We have over 30 different supernatural species living harmoniously in Moonstone Hollow now. It's unprecedented." As we pored over Lily's data, I felt a swell of pride. This was our goal, a real safe place for all supernatural creatures. Our next destination was the old ritual spot on the edge of town. Cyrus was there, waiting for us, and his usually serious face showed excitement. "Are you ready, Catalyst?" Cyrus asked as we approached. I nodded, pulling out the key of harmony. It hummed with energy as if it knew what we were about to do. Together, Cyrus and I began the ritual to stabilize the magical energies in and around Moonstone Hollow. The key of harmony shone brightly in my hands, making our combined magical powers stronger. As we recited the old words, I felt the energy of the land changing, forming a new, balanced pattern. After we finished, the air felt cleaner, and I sensed a deep peace and balance I had never experienced before. "It's complete," Cyrus said, his voice filled with wonder. "Moonstone Hollow is now permanently protected from magical disruptions." As we made our way back into town, we ran into Kara. The older werewolf's face was relaxed, a far cry from the constant worry she had worn recently. "Aurora, I've got good news," Kara said. "The increased supernatural activity in the neighboring towns has subsided. Many have relocated here, and those who chose to stay have found a new balance in their communities." I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Our actions hadn't just helped Moonstone Hollow, they had brought stability to the entire region. As we walked through the town square, I spotted Eli leading a group of young supernaturals through what looked like a training exercise. The children, werewolves, witches, fae, and others I couldn't immediately identify, were practicing controlling their abilities. Under Eli's patient guidance, they were making remarkable progress. "Eli's really come into his own," Xander remarked, following my gaze. I nodded, feeling a surge of pride for the young werewolf. "He's found his calling. These kids are the future of our world, and Eli's helping to shape that future." Our next stop was back at the ancient ritual site, which had been transformed into a grand meeting space. Representatives from every supernatural group came together for the first official council meeting. When I sat down at the front, I felt a strong sense of unity among everyone. The meeting went better than I could have imagined. We talked about everything, from sharing resources to solving conflicts between different groups. Even though there were some disagreements, everyone treated each other with respect and really wanted to find solutions that worked for everyone. As the meeting concluded, I felt a sudden urge to do more. The key of harmony thrummed in response to my thoughts, and I found myself raising it high. "I want to try something," I announced to the assembled council. "I believe we can create a magical communication network, connecting us with other supernatural havens around the world." With the council's encouragement, I focused my will through the key. A shimmering web of light spread out from the artifact, expanding far beyond the borders of Moonstone Hollow. In my imagination, I could picture other safe places turning on their lights, joining our network. When I put the key down, there was a moment of quiet surprise, then loud cheers. We were no longer by ourselves. We were now part of a worldwide group of magical creatures. The days after that were very busy. A group of trusted human friends came to Moonstone Hollow, ready to help connect our world with theirs. Xander and I worked non-stop to write a new town rulebook, making sure everyone in our community knew their rights and duties and were protected. Lily had a big success that made us all happy. She found a way to safely share magical secrets with the human world, which led to better science and medicine that would help both groups. It was a careful balance, showing enough to help, but not too much to scare or confuse our human allies. One of the most touching moments came when Cyrus and the Awakened publicly renounced their former destructive goals. Standing before the entire town, Cyrus pledged that the Awakened would use their powers for the betterment of all beings. The sincerity in his eyes brought tears to mine, and I knew that the rift between our factions was finally, truly healed. To celebrate our unity and progress, we decided to hold a festival. The The town square was transformed into a riot of color and magic. Supernatural beings from every community demonstrated their unique abilities, shared their cultures, and revealed in the freedom to be themselves openly. While observing a group of children, a diverse mix of supernatural beings, joyfully playing without a worry, I felt a gentle tap on my shoulder. It was Lily, nearly bursting with excitement. "Aurora, you won't believe this," Lily exclaimed. "I've just received word that other catalysts around the world have successfully established their sanctuaries." The news made me really happy and felt like we were right. We weren't the only ones trying. People everywhere were working for the same goal of togetherness and peace. It was like the key of harmony was shining brightly because of all the good feelings. I lifted it, curious, and watched in awe as a shimmering effect spread across the sky above Moonstone Hollow. The beautiful display of magical energy was visible to all, a testament to the harmony we had achieved. Later that day, I received news that human governments had officially recognized Moonstone Hollow as a sovereign territory. It was a crucial step in ensuring our autonomy while fostering positive relations with the human world. As the festival continued into the evening, I found myself drawn to the edge of town, where Eli and the young refugee I had seen him with earlier were demonstrating a new form of cooperative magic. Their combined powers created beautiful, intricate patterns of light and energy in the air. It was a powerful symbol of what the next generation of supernatural beings could achieve together. Standing there, watching the happy celebrations, I felt the calm atmosphere that filled Moonstone Hollow. I finally let myself relax. The heavy feeling of responsibility that had been with me for the past few weeks seemed to disappear, at least for a little while. We had done it. We had created a true sanctuary, a place of peace and unity for all supernatural beings. As I basked in this moment of triumph, I spotted Asher near the town entrance. He was assisting a small group of refugees, the final ones to reach our safe haven, in settling down. I walked over to him, eager to thank him for his unwavering efforts. "Asher," I called out as I got closer. "I don't know how we could have handled everything without you. You've been remarkable." Asher turned to me with a smile, but before he could respond, his eyes locked onto something, or someone, behind me. I turned to see what had captured his attention so completely. A stunning werewolf lady stood there, her eyes wide as she gazed at Asher. Even from my spot, I could sense the intense energy between them. I recognized it immediately, the undeniable pull of true mates. "Aurora," Asher whispered, "I think Luna is my mate." Then he walked away. I saw Asher and Luna take slow steps toward each other, eyes fixed to each other. My heart swelled with joy for Asher, and I thanked the moon goddess for giving him a second chance. I stood there, with the key of harmony in my hand, and wandered hopefully toward a new future. I woke up excited. Today my pack will be coming. "Time to gather the family," I said quietly to myself as I added a touch of magic to each invitation. These weren't ordinary invitations. They were magical and would find their way to every member of my pack, no matter where they were. As I watched the invitations fly out the window like magical butterflies, I felt a mix of old memories and pride. A lot had changed, and now I could show them the amazing world we'd created here in Moonstone Hollow. Xander found me looking out the window, deep in thought. His warm hands on my shoulders brought me back to the moment. "Ready for the big day?" he asked, his eyes shining with excitement. I nodded, leaning into his hug. "More than ready. Let's make this a welcome they'll never forget." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Xander and I rushed through town, working with everyone to prepare a huge feast. Supernatural beings of all kinds pitched in, their enthusiasm infectious. Werewolves hung magical lanterns that changed color with the mood of those nearby. Fae created beautiful flower designs that looked like they were moving in the wind. Even the usually shy vampires came out to help, using their very fast speed to set up tables and chairs quickly. As the sun started to go down, coloring the sky with bright orange and pink, I felt someone I knew coming closer. My heart was full of happiness when I saw them, my pack, my family, led by Aiden and Jackson, walking into Moonstone Hollow. I rushed to greet them, unable to contain my excitement. "Welcome," I cried, throwing my arms around Aiden and Jackson in turn. "I'm really happy you're all here." Seeing their amazed expressions as they looked around Moonstone Hollow made me feel very proud. Werewolves and witches were walking together, and fairies were flying around, spreading magical dust that made the air sparkle. "Aurora," Aiden said softly, his eyes full of amazement. "What is this place?" I grinned, linking my arm through his. "This, my brother, is home. Come on, let me show you around." As I led my pack through the town, I couldn't help but see Moonstone Hollow through their eyes. Every corner had something amazing. From the mix of magical creatures to the strong feeling of magic in the air. We walked by the town's main park, where Eli was teaching a group of young magical beings a practice lesson. I paused, gesturing towards the scene with pride. "Eli's become an incredible teacher," I explained. "He's helping the next generation learn to control their abilities." We watched as a young werewolf, no more than 10 years old, successfully completed her first controlled transformation. The look of joy on her face was mirrored in Eli's proud smile. Our tour continued, and I could see my pack becoming more and more enchanted with Moonstone Hollow. They asked questions one after another, and I tried my best to answer each one, feeling proud of how much we had achieved. When we turned a corner, we saw Cyrus and a group of Awakened. They were showing off their magic, creating beautiful shapes of light and energy in the air. My pack watched, mesmerized, as the former enemies of supernatural kind demonstrated their reformed ways. "Is that Cyrus?" Jackson asked, his voice filled with disbelief. I nodded, smiling at his reaction. "A lot has changed, Jackson. Cyrus and the Awakened are our allies now. They've dedicated themselves to using their powers for the betterment of all supernatural beings." As the day went on, I found myself in a quiet moment with my pack. They surrounded me, their eyes showing a mix of amazement and pride. "Aurora," Zara said, her voice gentle with feeling, "we always knew you were meant for great things, but this is more than we ever dreamed of." Her words made me feel choked up. "I couldn't have done any of this without the support you all gave me," I answered, my voice full of emotion. "Everything I am, everything I've accomplished, it all began with our pack." We spent the next hour talking, really talking, about my journey as the catalyst. We experienced both the successes and the difficulties, the times of uncertainty and the wins that led to the creation of Moonstone Hollow. Their encouragement and pride in me were very clear, making me feel warm and happy inside. As the sun started to go down, Kara came over to our group, with a playful look in her eyes. "So," she said, talking to my friends, "I've heard you can change into different shapes. Want to show us what you can do?" What happened next was one of the most fun shape-shifting contests I've ever seen. My friends, excited to show their abilities, competed against the local werewolves in a series of challenges. The air was filled with laughter and good-natured ribbing as wolves of all sizes and colors raced, wrestled, and performed increasingly complex transformations. As the competition wound down, I spotted Asher making his way towards us, hand in hand with Luna. The sight of them together still brought a smile to my face. "Everyone," I called out, getting my pack's attention, "I'd like you to meet Luna." Luna stepped forward, her eyes shining with happiness. "It's a pleasure to meet all of you," she said. "Asher and I, we have an interesting story to share." As Asher told the tale of how he and Luna had come together, I noticed the amazement in my pack's eyes. It was a lovely reminder of how the world works in mysterious ways, always giving us new opportunities for joy. With night fully fallen, I decided it was time for a special treat. Raising the key of harmony, I focused my energy, channeling it through the artifact. The sky above Moonstone Hollow erupted in a spectacular display of magical lights, dancing and twirling in patterns that left everyone breathless. As the light show continued, I noticed Lily cornering a group of my pack members, her eyes alight with excitement. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard her quickly explaining her newest magical research. The mix of interest and a bit of confusion on my pack faces was something anyone who had listened to one of Lily's excited talks would recognize. The night continued with lots of laughter, stories, and the happiness of being together again. At one point, I saw Xander talking closely with Aiden, the two of them connecting over their shared experiences of helping me on my journey. Seeing two of the most important men in my life finding common ground made me feel warm inside. As the fun started to slow down, an idea came to me. I sought out Celine, Zara, Lily, and Luna, a plan forming in my mind. "Ladies," I said, a grin spreading across my face, "what do you say we continue this celebration with a little girls' night at my place?" The idea was met with enthusiastic agreement, and soon we were making our way to my home, arms linked and laughter echoing through the night air. Not to be outdone, I heard Xander call out to Eli, Jackson, Aiden, Marcus, and Asher. "Gentlemen, I believe a midnight run through the enchanted forest is in order, don't you? Who's with me?" As the men headed off towards the forest, their excited chatter fading into the distance, we women settled into the cozy warmth of my living room. Lily, ever the alchemist, mixed up a batch of magically infused cocktails that sparkled and changed color as we sipped them. The atmosphere was calm and close, very different from the big parties earlier. We told each other stories, some funny and some touching, making a mix of memories that brought us closer. "Aurora," Luna said, her eyes shining, "I need to know, what's the wildest thing you've done since becoming the catalyst?" I laughed, thinking back over the whirlwind of the past months. Oh, where do I even start? There was the time I accidentally turned all the werewolves fur pink during a full moon. The night was filled with stories about magical mishaps, supernatural showdowns, to simple daily building challenges for the haven of all supernatural beings. Each story was met by laughter and gasps, with the occasional magical demonstration as we got caught up in the excitement of the tales. As the night wore on, our conversation took on a more somber turn. We spoke about the struggles of being powerful women in the supernatural world, a topic that really seemed to hit home for each one of us in the circle. "It's not always easy," Celine said, her normally tough attitude becoming a little gentler. "Sometimes it feels like we have to work twice as hard just to be respected." I nodded, understanding completely. "That's why nights like this are so important," I said, glancing at the strong, amazing women around me. "We help and support each other. Together we can't be stopped." The others nodded in agreement, and I felt fortunate to have such incredible friends. As the first light of morning began to shine through the window, we decided to end our night with a special moment of unity. We stood in a circle, holding hands. I could feel the energy growing inside us, a clear sign of our strong connection. Words of unity and sisterhood filled the air, and a gentle light started to shine from our joined hands, getting brighter with each passing moment. After the ceremony ended, we stood still for a moment, feeling that strong bond and shared energy. It was a perfect way to finish a great evening. As the others started to leave, Celine stayed behind. We ended up standing on my porch, watching the sky get lighter as the sun was about to come up. "Can you believe how much we've changed?" Celine asked, her voice filled with amazement. I shook my head, smiling. "Sometimes it feels like just yesterday I joined the pack." Celine chuckled. "And now look at us. You're the catalyst, leader of the supernatural, and I'm..." "Still my best friend," I finished for her, bumping her shoulder playfully. "No matter, and that never will." We stood in comfortable silence and watched as the first rays of sun painted Moonstone Hollow in soft, golden hues. The town was slowly coming to life. Supernatural beings of all kinds turned up to start their day. Just then I heard familiar footsteps approaching. Xander appeared, looking exhilarated from his midnight run with the guys. He tugged me close with an arm around my waist. "How was your night?" he asked, pressing a kiss to my temple. I leaned into him, my heart full of love and contentment. "Perfect," I replied. "Absolutely perfect." Standing there, we watched the sun rise over Moonstone Hollow, and a wave of gratefulness washed over me, for the peace we'd attained, for the bridges we'd mend, for the family new and old that stood with us. This was what all the struggles and fights had built up to. This one perfect moment where all kinds of supernatural beings could all coexist in harmony, where old friends could reunite and new bonds could form, where the future stretched out before us, full of possibility and hope. The early morning light barely peeked through my curtains when I woke up, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today was special. It was my first day as a teacher at Moonstone Hollow's brand new academy for young supernatural beings. I, Aurora, the one who had brought peace to our world, was starting a new adventure, guiding the next generation. As I got ready, Xander's steady presence beside me was a comfort. He'd been up late helping me prepare a syllabus, a perfect blend of traditional supernatural knowledge and our new harmony-focused approach. "You can do it, Aurora," Xander said, giving my hand a comforting squeeze. "If anyone can help these kids learn to get along, it's you." I took a deep breath, feeling more confident because of his support. "Thanks, Xander. I just hope I can meet their expectations." The walk to the academy was not long, but with each step, I felt my responsibilities weighing heavier. The great building that now housed our special school took my breath away as I approached it, at just how much had changed. Just a few months back, it would have been impossible to even think about such an interaction of different magical creatures working together in this fashion. A mix of young faces welcomed me as I stepped onto the academy grounds. Werewolves stood next to witches, and young vampires were chatting happily with fae kids. The scene lifted my heart, the future we had fought so hard for. "Aurora!" Eli yelled as he ran to me, his face all bright and beaming. "Ready for the grand tour?" I nodded, grateful for his enthusiasm. As we walked through the academy, Eli pointed out the various specialized training areas: a reinforced room for werewolves learning to control their transformations, a greenhouse for budding herbalist witches, even a nighttime simulation chamber for our vampire students. "This is incredible, Eli," I breathed, taking it all in. "You've thought of everything." Eli beamed with pride. "We wanted to make sure every student feels accommodated and valued here. It's what you taught us, after all." Finally, it was time to talk to the students, and as I stood in front of them in the main hall, I had a short, sharp burst of fear. What if I let them down? What if I wasn't good enough for them? But I cleared the thought from my mind. "Welcome," I said firmly. "The first day of a new era for supernatural beings. Each one of you is the future, a future where we don't live in fear or rivalry, but in harmony. Together we will learn not only how to control our powers, but the usage of them to create a better world for all beings, both supernatural and human." Because as I spoke, the shift in energy was palpable within that room. The students leaned forward to catch each and every word, and I realized just then that they weren't in this class just to learn. They were here to be part of something bigger than themselves. Our first lesson was on the history of supernatural beings. Using the key of harmony, I projected vivid historical scenes around the classroom. The students were amazed when they saw old werewolf groups running through ancient forests, watched the first vampire groups forming in medieval Europe, and were surprised by fairy courts dancing in secret places. Knowing our history, I said, is the first step to deciding our future. But the day had its problems, too. During a break, I had to stop a big fight between a young werewolf, Liam, and a vampire student named Alina. "You bloodsuckers are why we've had to hide for so long," Liam snarled, his eyes flashing gold with anger. Alina hissed back, her fangs extending. "As if you dogs are any better. At least we have control." I stepped between them, my heart heavy. This was exactly the kind of prejudice we were trying to overcome. "Liam, Alina," I said firmly, "this stops now. Your ancestors may have been enemies, but you two have a choice. You can perpetuate old hatreds, or you can be the generation that breaks the cycle." As I spoke, I shared my experiences, the fears I had to overcome, the friendships I'd forged across species lines. Slowly I saw the anger in their eyes fade, replaced by shame, and then, tentatively, understanding. I'm sorry," Lee not quite meeting Elena's eyes. Elena nodded, her fangs retracting. "Me too. I guess we both have a lot to learn." But as I watched them go out of the compound together, discussing a bit hesitant, a flicker of hope arrested my attention. Change won't happen in a night, but it was actually possible. The day continued with a visit from Lily, who had the students spellbound with her demonstration of advanced magical techniques. The way she wove spells, creating shimmering patterns of energy in the air, had even the non-witch students clamoring to learn more. As the week progressed, I organized a field trip to the enchanted forest on the outskirts of Moonstone Hollow. Leading the students through the sun-dappled glades, I taught them about the delicate balance of natural magic. "Every tree, every stone, every stream here is infused with magic," I explained, watching as the students' eyes widened in wonder. As supernatural beings, it's our responsibility to respect and protect these environments. To drive the point home, I had each student perform a small ritual, giving back a bit of their energy to the forest. The joy on their faces as they felt the forest respond to their offerings was beautiful to behold. One of the most impactful moments came when Cyrus made a guest appearance in our class. The students fell silent as he entered, many of them having heard stories of his past as a leader of the awakened. "I stand before you as living proof that change is possible," Cyrus began, his usually stern face softened with humility. "I once believed that supernatural beings were a threat to be controlled or eliminated, but thanks to Aurora and the power of understanding, I learned how wrong I was." As Cyrus talked about his transformation from an enemy to a friend, I could tell his words were really affecting the students. It was a strong reminder that people can change and that there's always hope. To help us use what we learned, I set up some activities where students with different magical skills had to team up to solve tricky magical challenges. It was challenging at first. Old prejudices died hard. But slowly, I began to see real cooperation forming. Kara's assistance was invaluable during our lessons on shape-shifting control. Her years of experience as a werewolf elder made her the perfect co-instructor for this crucial skill. Control isn't about suppressing who you are, Kara explained to a group of young werewolves struggling with their transformations. It's about embracing every part of yourself and learning to direct that power. Not every moment went perfectly. One day, a young witch named Fiona couldn't control a spell to make things float, and books and chairs started flying around the room. For a second, everyone felt scared. But instead of being afraid, I felt really determined. That's why we were there, to learn, to get better, and to face challenges as a team. "Stay calm, everyone," I said, speaking in a strong voice. "Fiona, look at me. You can control this. The magic doesn't control you. You control it. Take a deep breath and visualize the objects settling gently back into place." Slowly, with guidance and encouragement from her classmates, Fiona managed to regain control. As the last book settled back onto its shelf, a cheer went up from the class. It was a powerful lesson in support and perseverance. Xander surprised me one afternoon by organizing a special combat training session. At first, I was hesitant. We were trying to move away from conflict, after all. But Xander's reasoning was sound. "They need to understand their strength," he explained, "so they can learn to use it responsibly." Watching Xander guide the students through defensive maneuvers and controlled sparring matches, I realized he was right. Knowledge and control of their abilities would help prevent accidental harm and give the students confidence. As the weeks went by, I initiated a mentorship program, pairing older students with younger ones. It was heartwarming to see friendships form across age gaps and species lines. A teenage vampire took a young werewolf under her wing, teaching him meditation techniques to help control his transformations. A fey child and a witch became inseparable, constantly exchanging knowledge about their respective magical traditions. One of our most successful initiatives was a community service project in Moonstone Hollow. The students used their growing skills to help town residents. Young witches helped tend magical gardens. Werewolf students assisted in building and repairs with their enhanced strength, and vampire students organized nighttime security patrols. Seeing the students take pride in using their abilities to help others, watching the grateful reactions of the townspeople, I felt a swell of emotion. This was our goal, a community where supernatural abilities were considered gifts to be shared, not powers to be feared. The parent-teacher night was an event I was both excited and anxious about. As parents from various supernatural backgrounds filed into the academy, I could sense their mix of pride and apprehension. "Your children are pioneering a new way of life for all supernaturals," I told them, my voice ringing with conviction. "They are learning not only to live together, but also to grow together. The progress they have achieved in just a few weeks is truly remarkable." When I told stories about teamwork and new friendships breaking down old barriers, I saw the parents' worries turn into hope. By the end of the evening, even the most doubtful people seemed to feel a bit more positive about our new method. The visit from my old pack provided an unexpected learning opportunity. As Aiden and the others shared stories of pack life and werewolf traditions, I saw the non-werewolf students listening with rapt attention. It sparked a wonderful cultural exchange with students from other supernatural backgrounds eagerly sharing their traditions in turn. During the last week of our first term, I thought it was the right moment for the students to try their first unity ritual. When we all stood in a circle, just like I used to do with my friends, I could sense the students' nervousness. "Keep in mind," I said gently, "this isn't about doing it perfectly. It's about intention, about opening yourselves to each other and to the possibility of true harmony." As we started the ritual, I felt the usual rush of energy. But this time it was different, deeper, more intricate. The special magical marks of each student mixed together, forming a web of power I had never experienced before. After the ritual finished, there was a brief moment of silent wonder. Then, slowly, smiles began to spread across faces. Hands reached out, clasping across the circle, regardless of species. At that moment, I realized we had accomplished something truly remarkable. As I saw the students leaving on the final day of the term, happily talking about their plans to keep in contact during the break, I felt a strong sense of satisfaction. Xander found me still standing there, long after the last student had left. "Looks like someone had a successful first term as a teacher," he said, wrapping an arm around my waist. I leaned into him, my heart full. "They've come so far, Xander, all of them, when I think about where we started and where we are now." "You should be proud, Aurora," Xander said softly. "You're not just teaching them about magic or control, you're teaching them how to create a better world." As we walked home through the streets of Moonstone Hollow, I reflected on the past weeks. There have been challenges, certainly. Old prejudices didn't disappear overnight, and learning to control supernatural abilities was never easy. But watching my students grow, seeing them form friendships I would once have thought impossible, filled me with hope for the future. I thought of Liam and Alina, the werewolf and vampire who had started as enemies and ended the term as close friends. Of Fiona, the young witch who had gone from barely controlling her powers to helping tutor younger students. Of all the small moments of kindness and understanding I'd witnessed. I understood then that the true strength of the catalyst was not just in causing change, but in supporting it, helping it develop and spread. As we arrived home, with the sun setting behind us and coloring Moonstone Hollow in golden hues, I felt a strong sense of purpose. Our journey wasn't finished. In many ways, it was just starting. There would be more difficulties to overcome, more lessons to learn. But looking back at the academy, at the town we had built, at the community we had created, I was certain of one thing. A year has gone by since everything changed, and today is the day Xander and I renew our vows. I lay in bed for a moment, amazed by the peace that now filled Moonstone Hollow. The sounds of various supernatural beings going about their day drifted through the open window, a harmony I once thought impossible. My daydream was broken by the wonderful smell of fresh coffee and something sweet. I sat up and saw Xander coming into our room with a tray full of breakfast. "Good morning, beautiful," Xander said, his eyes shining with love and a bit of fun. "I thought you might want to start this special day with some energy." As we ate, we couldn't help but remember our journey, from the first time we met to the challenges we faced and the life we've built together. "Remember when you first told me I was your mate?" I asked, laughing at the memory. "I thought you were crazy." Xander chuckled, taking my hand. "And look at us now, about to renew our vows in front of the entire supernatural community." A knock at the door announced the arrival of Celine and Zara. My best friends burst in, arms full of fabric and excitement. "Aurora!" Celine exclaimed, chasing Xander out of the room. "Wait until you see what we've brought for you." They unveiled a dress that took my breath away. It was a masterpiece, combining elements from various supernatural traditions. It sparkled like a vampire's skin in sunlight, while the skirt flowed like water, reminiscent of the fluidity of werewolf transformation. The dress had beautiful fairy-like stitching around the bottom, and hidden within the fabric were magical symbols for love and safety. When they helped me put on the dress, I felt a strong sense of meaning. This dress symbolized all the things we had been striving for: togetherness, peace, and respect between all magical creatures. Once dressed, I decided to take a walk through Moonstone Hollow. The town was buzzing with activity, everyone preparing for the ceremony. Lily's decorations filled every part of the room, turning our cozy space into a magical storybook scene. Floating lanterns softly moved in the air, and flowers showed up in colors we've never seen before. I walked to the academy, where my students were busy working. As I walked in, they stopped what they were doing. "Don't worry about me, I'm just walking by," I announced. Their excitement was clear, and it made me happy to see how much they've grown. These young magical beings, who used to be separated by long-lasting distrust, now worked together perfectly. As I continued my walk, I was intercepted by Cyrus and a group of Awakened. The former enemies of supernatural kind now stood before me as allies, their faces alight with genuine happiness. "Aurora," Cyrus said, his usually stern face softened with emotion. "We have something for you and Xander." He presented a small, intricately carved box. Inside was an artifact of immense magical power, its energy humming in harmony with the key of harmony at my side. "This is a token of our new alliance," Cyrus explained. "May it protect our union and symbolize the new world we're building together." Touched by the gesture, I hugged Cyrus, feeling the last vestiges of our old animosity melt away. As I made my way back home, a chorus of howls erupted across Moonstone Hollow. Kara, leading a group of werewolves, was performing a traditional pre-ceremony howl. The sound sent shivers down my spine, connecting me to my werewolf heritage in a profound way. Back at home, I found Xander pacing nervously. It was endearing to see my usually confident mate so flustered. "Xander," I said, taking his hands in mine. "What's wrong?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I want everything to be perfect. For you, for us, for everyone." I cupped his face, looking into his eyes. "It already is perfect, because we're together, and we're surrounded by our family, all of Moonstone Hollow." His tension visibly eased, and he pulled me into a tight embrace. We stayed like that for a moment, getting support from each other. As the evening came, we walked to the town square. Eli, now a confident young leader, approached us with a proud smile. "Everything's secure," he reported. "We've got representatives from every supernatural faction helping with security. It's a beautiful thing to see." The square was packed with all sorts of creatures. Werewolves stood next to vampires, witches talked happily with fairies, and humans mixed easily with everyone. As Xander and I welcomed our guests, I realized how much we've grown. These groups, who used to be fierce enemies, now came together to celebrate love and unity. When the last bit of sunlight disappeared, the crowd became quiet. Xander and I stood in the middle of the gathering, surrounded by the community we had built together. I saw Asher and Luna in the crowd, holding hands. Nearby, Aiden and Lily sat close, their eyes full of happiness. Seeing these couples and many others like them made me very happy. Our love story had encouraged others to overcome differences and find happiness in unexpected places. As we started saying our vows, I felt the importance of the moment. These were not just promises to each other, but to everyone there, and to the future we were all creating together. "Xander," I began, my voice carrying across the silent square. "A year ago, we stood together against impossible odds. Today, we stand surrounded by the impossible made real. I vow not only to love and care for you, but also to keep working with you to nurture the world we've built together. With you, I've found not just a spouse, but a true partner in every way." Xander's eyes filled with tears as he spoke his promises. "Aurora, my love, my inspiration, you've not only transformed my life, but also the entire supernatural world. I vow not just to love and take care of you, but also to keep working together to make our world even better. With you, I've found not just a husband or wife, but a real partner in everything we do." As we sealed our promises with a kiss, the key of harmony next to me started to glow with energy. Suddenly, the night sky lit up with a magical light show. Colors of every kind danced above Moonstone Hollow, casting the town in a magical light. The crowd gasped in amazement. The ceremony smoothly turned into a big celebration. Tables groaned under the weight of dishes from every supernatural culture represented in Moonstone Hollow. Vampire blood delicacies sat alongside hearty werewolf roasts, delicate fey pastries, and witch brews of every flavor imaginable. As the festivities continued, Xander led me to the dance floor for our first dance as a renewed couple. As we moved together, I noticed swirls of magical elements dancing around us. Fire, water, earth, and air, all controlled by my students. It was a beautiful display of the harmony we'd achieved, magic and nature working as one. The speeches that followed brought tears to my eyes. Celine spoke of our life friendship and how proud she was of the leader I'd become. Aiden reminisced about the headstrong young werewolf I'd once been and marveled at the change I'd brought to the supernatural world. Lily's speech was a beautiful, if somewhat rambling, account of the magical theory behind our union and its impact on the supernatural balance. As the night went on, Xander and I were able to quietly leave the party. We ended up in a peaceful part of the magical forest, far from the noise of the celebration. "So," Xander said, holding me tightly, "how does it feel to renew our promises?" I leaned against him, feeling his heart beating steadily. "It feels perfect," I answered. "Like we're not just promising to be together, but also promising to keep everything we've built and to honor everyone who trusts us." We stood quietly for a while, just enjoying being near each other. Then, away from the crowd and the ceremony, we made our private promises to each other again. Promises of love, support, and being partners in everything. As we walked back to the party, we stopped at the edge of the square. The sight before us was breathtaking. Supernatural beings of all kinds danced and laughed together. Old enemies shared drinks and swapped stories. Young supernaturals, some of them my students, practiced their abilities in joyful displays of magic. "We did this," Xander said softly, his arm around my waist. I leaned into him, my heart full to bursting. "We did," I agreed, "and this is just the start." As we went back to the party, I felt a strong sense of success and even stronger hope. The path ahead wouldn't always be smooth. There would be difficulties, failures, and tough days, but seeing the happy crowd, feeling the joy and togetherness we had created, I knew we were prepared for whatever the future holds. In that moment, surrounded by the family we had formed and the community we had built, I felt completely and truly happy. The big struggle a year ago was a turning point, but this celebration of love, unity, and hope, this was the true victory. I woke up suddenly feeling really sick. I rushed to the bathroom as fast as I could. Xander was quick to enter and hold my hair, rubbing my back. "Aurora, are you all right?" Xander asked in a very worried tone. I nodded very slowly. "I'm fine," I whispered. "I must have eaten something bad." But when I stood up and smelled Xander's cologne, which I usually liked, I felt sick again. I turned back to the toilet, feeling my stomach twist. Xander looked very concerned. "This isn't normal, Aurora. Maybe we should see the pack healer." I wanted to argue, to insist I was fine, but the worry in Xander's eyes made me reconsider. "Okay," I agreed. "We'll go after breakfast." But breakfast was another challenge. As soon as I went into the kitchen, the smell of the coffee, one that usually is my favorite morning smell, made me nauseous. I couldn't even finish a piece of dry toast before having to push my plate away. Xander watched me with more and more worry. "That's it," he said strongly. "We're going to see Zara now." I didn't have the strength to argue. As we went to Zara's house, she welcomed us with a knowing smile, and I could tell she already knew why we were there. "Aurora, Xander," Zara said warmly. "Come in. I've been expecting you." As we settled into her cozy living room, Zara began her examination. She checked my vital signs, asked about my symptoms, and then did a special aura reading. As her hands moved over me, her eyes got big and she smiled really wide. "Well," Zara said, her eyes shining, "I think you have something to celebrate." My heart raced. "What do you mean?" I asked, though deep down I think I already knew. Zara took my hand and Xander's, joining them together. "You're going to have a baby, sweetheart." Everything felt like it paused for a second. I looked at Xander, his eyes wearing the same expression of surprise and overjoy. "We are going to be parents," Xander said in a soft tone of voice, full of emotion. I nodded, too emotional to talk because of my happy tears. We stayed close for a while, both of us feeling the big news and the love we shared. When we walked out of Zara's house holding hands, it started to feel real. "Let's keep this between us for now," I suggested. "At least until we can tell our closest friends and family." Xander agreed, and we spent the rest of the day in a happy daze, stealing glances and secret smiles whenever we could. That evening, we invited Celine, Zara, Luna, Aiden, Jackson, Asher, and Lily over for dinner. As our friends arrived, their curious glances told me they sensed something was up. "Okay, you two," Celine said as soon as we were all seated. "What's happening? You both look really happy." I turned to Xander, who nodded for me to do my thing. Taking a deep breath, I stood up. "We have some news," I started, smiling widely. "I'm going to be a mom!" The room filled with cheers and congratulations. Celine and Lily quickly got up to hug me, already talking about planning a baby shower. Aiden clapped Xander on the back, while Zara started rattling off protection. As the excitement died down and our friends left, Xander and I found ourselves alone, the reality of our situation setting in. "How do you think this will affect our roles in Moonstone Hollow?" I asked, voicing the concern that had been nagging at me. Xander pulled me close. "It will change things, but we'll handle it together, just like we always do," he admitted. I nodded, hiding my face in his chest. "I'm concerned about possible dangers," I admitted. "Our child will be special. People might see them as a threat. Then we'll protect them," Xander said firmly. "We've faced worse odds before, Aurora. We can handle this." The next day, I visited the academy. As soon as I walked in, I noticed my students staring at me with curiosity. Not long after, a young witch named Faye spoke up. "Professor Aurora," she said hesitantly, "your aura, it's different." I smiled, realizing I couldn't hide this from them even if I wanted to. "You're right," I said. "I have some news for you all. I'm pregnant." The classroom was filled with happy talking. My students gathered close, giving me praise and asking questions so quickly that I couldn't keep up. As the day continued, word about my pregnancy quickly spread through Moonstone Hollow. Different magical creatures came by to say well done and gave me special items to keep me safe. Even Cyrus and the Awakened paid us a visit, presenting us with a beautiful artifact, a small, intricately carved crystal that glowed with a soft, pulsing light. "This is said to protect unborn children," Cyrus explained, placing the crystal in my hand. "We want you to have it." I was really moved by the gesture and felt a lump in my throat. "Thank you, Cyrus," I said. "This means more to me than you can imagine." That night, I had my first craven big-time prego. I woke up in the middle of the night, really wanting some chocolate chip and pickles. "Xander," I said softly, trying not to startle him as I woke him up. "I need something." Xander blinked at me sleepily. "What is it? Are you okay?" I explained my craving, watching as Xander's expression changed from concern to amusement to determination. "I'll be back soon," he told me, giving me a kiss on the forehead before putting on his clothes. I watched him go, filled with love for this man who was ready to search through Moonstone Hollow in the middle of the night just to fulfill my strange cravings. The next day, during a pack meeting, Kara insisted on performing an ancient werewolf blessing ritual for me and the baby. The entire pack sat in a circle around me, and their voices rose into a mesmerizing, beautiful howl that touched something deep within me. As time passed, I became increasingly concerned about how I would handle being both a leader and a mother. One night, while lying in bed with Xander, I expressed my worries. "What if I can't handle everything?" I asked, my voice small in the darkness. "What if I let everyone down?" Xander pulled me closer. "Aurora," he whispered softly, "you are the most powerful and capable person I know. You have united the supernatural world, defied unbelievable odds, and come out even stronger. This is just another adventure, and we are going to handle this together." His words soothed me, and I slept more at peace. The next big moment came when we went for our first prenatal appointment with Zara. As she moved her hands over my still flat belly, a soft, steady sound filled the room. "Is that?" I started, my eyes wide. Zara nodded, smiling. "That's your baby's heartbeat." I held Xander's hand, my eyes filled with tears, as we listened to the special rhythm, a mix of human and wolf heartbeats that was completely our child's own. As my pregnancy continued, we began getting the nursery ready. We wanted it to show all parts of our child's background, so we added things from werewolf, vampire, and witch traditions. Lily offered to put a spell on the room for extra safety and comfort, which we happily agreed to. One night, I had a clear dream about our child's future. I saw flashes of a powerful young werewolf, with Xander's eyes and my smile, bringing further unity to the supernatural world. When I woke up, I felt hopeful. But things didn't go perfectly. As my pregnancy continued, I noticed my magic becoming more and more unpredictable. Simple spells that I had done many times before now had unexpected outcomes. like the time I tried to make a book float and instead turned it into a swarm of butterflies. Thankfully, Celine was there to help. She spent hours with me, helping me adapt my spells to my changing body and magical core. Your magic is adjusting to nurture the life growing inside you. Celine explained, it's perfectly normal, but it does require some creative solutions. One day, while I was teaching at the academy, my students gave me a wonderful surprise. They handed me a lovely baby book they had made themselves. Inside, there were kind wishes, promises, and special protections for our baby. Each student had added something special, a magical spell, a drawing, or a sweet message. As I looked through the pages, I felt like crying. "This is so beautiful," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Thank you all so much." As my baby's due date drew near, Xander and I started to take more and more evening walks in the woods. One evening, we were walking together under the stars. He and I were sharing hopes and dreams for our baby. "What do you think he or she will be like?" I asked, placing my hand on my growing belly. Xander smiled, placing his hand over mine. "I think they'll be extraordinary," he said, "just like their mother." I laughed, leaning into him, and brave and kind like their father. As we stood there, basking in the moonlight and the joy of our growing family, I felt the key of harmony at my side begin to glow softly. It felt like it was giving our child its own special blessing. At that moment, surrounded by the forest's enchantment and the love of my partner, I felt a strong sense of peace and confidence. The next few months passed quickly with a lot of preparations and excitement. My body changed a lot, and so did how I saw the world. I started noticing things I hadn't before, like how sunlight shines through the trees in the forest, the sound of kids laughing in the town square, and the gentle moments between couples from all kinds of supernatural backgrounds. As my due date got closer, everyone in Moonstone Hollow seemed to be waiting with bated breath. The impending birth of a child that represented the union of multiple supernatural bloodlines was seen as a symbol of hope for our new, unified world. One evening, Xander and I sat on our porch watching the sun set. Then I suddenly felt a very strong kick from our baby. "Xander," I said, taking his hand and laying it on my belly, "feel this." His eyes widened as he felt the strong movements beneath his palm. "That's our child," he said in awe. "Our little miracle." I nodded, overcome with emotion. "Our little miracle," I repeated softly. As the sky darkened further and the stars began to appear, I melted into Xander's embrace, completely contented. Whatever lay in store, however rocky things might get for the two of us, at least for now, I knew this. This love, this family, this community we'd built was worth all the effort. And with a baby growing inside me, that sense of purpose continued to grow stronger. We weren't just making a family, we were helping to raise the next group of people who would bring hope to Moonstone Hollow and the whole supernatural world. With Xander by my side, our friends and family helping us, and the love for our unborn child filling my heart, I knew we were ready for whatever the future might hold. The path ahead would surely have both happy and difficult moments, but I was ready to handle it all. As we sat there, surrounded by the gentle light of the evening, I quietly promised our unborn child and the future we were creating, "We'll handle everything as a team, little one. Together, we will build a world together in which you will grow and learn to love with abandon. Welcome to our family, welcome to Moonstone Hollow, welcome to a place full of endless chances." And just like that, I felt another strong kick, as if our baby was saying, "I'm ready. Let's start this journey together." I woke up with a sigh, my very pregnant body making even getting out of bed difficult. As I tried to sit up, Xander was right there, his face showing worry. "Let me help you, Aurora," he whispered, his soft hands supporting my back as I swung my legs over the edge of the bed. I smiled up at him gratefully, yet couldn't help but feel annoyed at my weakness. I was accustomed to being strong, able to tackle anything life threw at me. This feeling of needing help was new and not very pleasant. We sat down to breakfast, still in high spirits, but in my mind at least getting back to normal. Then an urgent message came in. Something was happening. Vampires and werewolves were battling it out. Duty screamed at me to rush there right away, while another part of me tried to say, "Wait," the part of me conscious of a growing baby inside me. Xander saw my internal struggle. "Aurora, you don't have to go. Someone else can handle it. I shook my head. No, I should be there. I'm still the leader of Moonstone Hollow. Even though Xander disagreed, I went to the town square. I approached the group of supernatural beings who by the sound of it were in one heated argument. Their loud conversation ceased abruptly. All eyes turned to me. "What's going on here?" I asked, trying to act confident when all I really wanted to do was fall. As I listened to both sides and started to help them solve their problem, I suddenly felt very dizzy. My vision got blurry and I almost fell in the middle of my sentence. Right away, both vampires and werewolves came to help me, forgetting their fight because they were worried about me. "Aurora, are you okay?" A vampire elder asked, his cool hand steadying my arm. "I'm okay," I said, even though everything around me was still spinning. "I just need a minute." When I arrived home, Xander was there, appearing concerned and somewhat distressed. "Aurora, you can't continue to push yourself so intensely. It's not good for you or the baby." "What do you want me to do, Xander?" I replied, feeling my frustration rise. "Just sit and do nothing while everything I've worked for falls apart." "Of course not," he said, his voice gentler. "But you need to think about what's most important. Our child needs you to be healthy and strong." Our discussion grew tense, neither of us willing to back down. In the end, we agreed to disagree, but I could see the worry lingering in Xander's eyes. The next day at the academy, I could feel the concerned gazes of my students as I lectured. I must have looked more tired than I realized because about halfway through the class, a young witch named Emma raised her hand. "Professor Aurora," she said, a bit unsure, "do you want me to do the demonstration instead? You look like you could use a rest." I wanted to say no, to show that I could manage, but Emma's sincere worry made me think again. "Thank you, Emma," I said, sitting down with relief. That would really help. A few days later, I had a deep talk with Celine. As usual, my best friend knew just what to say to help me. "Aurora," Celine said, her eyes showing she understood, "being a mom doesn't mean you can't be a leader too, but it does mean learning to balance both roles." "How do I do that?" I asked, feeling lost. Celine smiled. "You start by accepting assistance when it's given, and understand that looking after yourself is also looking after others." Her advice stuck with me, especially during a council meeting when my pregnancy brain made me forget important details about a new peace agreement. As I fumbled for words, Cyrus stepped in smoothly, providing the details I had forgotten. The support from the community I had helped build was both humbling and reassuring. As my due date drew closer, Xander and I attended a childbirth class for supernatural couples. The unusual problems we faced became very clear when the teacher had trouble telling us what to expect from a special baby. "Just be prepared for anything," the teacher said, laughing nervously. A few nights later, I woke up with really bad stomach pain. "I think it's starting," I said, breathing fast. The next couple of hours were quite busy as we had to rush to the hospital, only to find that it was a false alarm. On our way back home, it then hit me that the birth of my baby was near. I held on to Xander's hand, suddenly scared of what was to come. "We're doing this together," Xander comforted me, his calm demeanor easing my fears. The next day, Lily and Zara surprised me with a baby shower. Gifts from various supernatural factions poured in, everything from enchanted teething rings to a mobile made of miniature constellations that actually moved. Deeply moved by the flood of support, I had a vivid nightmare that night. In my dream, I saw myself failing as both a leader and a mother. Moonstone Hollow was falling apart, and my child was crying in the background. I woke up sweating, and my heart was racing. Xander, sensing my worry even in my sleep, woke up immediately. He held me close and whispered comforting words. "You're not alone, Aurora," he said. "We're facing this together, remember?" His words and the warmth of his hug helped me forget the fear from my nightmare. In the morning, I made a decision. It was time to start sharing more of my responsibilities. I gathered my closest allies, Celine, Aiden, Lily, and Cyrus. "I need your help," I said, swallowing my pride. "I cannot manage everything myself, especially with the baby on the way." To my relief, they were all more than willing to take on additional duties. Aiden, especially, took on a lot of the daily leadership responsibilities. "You've done so much for all of us, Aurora," Aiden said kindly. "Let us do this for you." With some burden taken off me, Xander and I focused on getting the nursery ready. While we worked on adding protective charms and spells to the room's design, we talked about our worries and dreams for becoming parents. "What if we're not ready?" I asked, voicing the fear that had been nagging at me. Xander paused and gave me a warm smile. "I don't think anyone is ever completely ready, but we'll figure it out together," he said. As my pregnancy continued, my magic started acting strangely. During a class at the academy, a basic light spell went wrong, filling the room with bouncing balls of light that took hours to get rid of. My students thought it was funny, but I was upset about losing control. Around this time, an old vampire came to visit us. She said she had a prophecy about our unborn child. Her words were confusing and unclear, talking about great power and the possibility of either great good or terrible harm. This prophecy had lit a sense of anxiety and unease in me. As Xander and I lay in bed that night, I couldn't get what the seer had told us out of my mind. "What if we can't help our child make the right choice?" I whispered into the darkness. Xander pulled me closer. "We'll love him or her, Aurora. That's the most important thing. We'll handle the rest as we go." Realizing I needed a break, Xander surprised me with a baby moon in a magical place, famous for making people feel better. For a few wonderful days, we could relax and be close again, away from the stress of being in charge and the worries of becoming parents. As we rested on a beach with sparkling silver sand, watching 2 moons rise in a purple sky, I felt completely calm for the first time in months. "Thank you for this," I whispered to Xander, holding his hand. He kissed me gently. "Anything for you, Aurora?" Upon our return to Moonstone Hollow, I was surprised to find everything running smoothly in my absence. Aiden had managed things capably, and the other council members had stepped up to fill any gaps. It was comforting to see that the group we had created could work well without me always watching over it. When I last met with Zara, she told me everything was running fine, but she strongly advised me to begin my maternity leave. "The baby will come at any time," Zara announced, her eyes bright. I knew she was right, but a wave of overwhelming dread washed over me at the thought of stepping away from my duties, even if for a little while. Still, I realized it was necessary. The next day, I called a gathering in the town square. Facing the extraordinary creatures of Moonstone Hollow, I experienced a blend of feelings: pride for our shared achievements, affection for this community, and some apprehension about the changes ahead. "My friends," I said, my voice carrying across the square, "as you all know, my baby will soon be here, so it is time for me to give the leadership role to someone for now." A round of congratulations and concern murmured through the crowd. "I want to assure you all that Moonstone Hollow will be in capable hands. Aiden has agreed to take on the role of temporary leader in my absence." Aiden stepped forward, and I saw the determination in his eyes. I knew he was ready for this responsibility. "This is not goodbye," I continued. "It's simply a new chapter in our story, a story we all helped create. Together, we've built a place where all magical beings can live together happily. Now, we're about to welcome a child who shows that unity." I put my hand on my big belly, feeling a strong kick, like the baby was agreeing with me. This child is our future. A future where magical beings from different groups become more like one, where we focus on what brings us together instead of what separates us. I believe you will all keep working together, supporting each other, and making Moonstone Hollow a great example of magical teamwork. When I finished talking, everyone cheered and clapped. I felt very supported and loved. Xander came to my side, putting an arm around me. "You did great," he whispered. As we walked through the crowd, getting kind words and encouragement, I felt a calm happiness inside me. Yes, the future was uncertain. Yes, there would be challenges ahead, but we would face them together, not just Xander and me, but all of Moonstone Hollow. That evening, Xander and I were sitting on our porch, enjoying the sunset over our town. Suddenly, I felt our baby kick inside me. I put Xander's hand on my belly, and he smiled brightly when he felt the strong movements. "I believe our baby is excited about this new journey," I said with a smile. Xander nodded, his eyes filled with love, and so are we. The last rays of sunlight painted vibrant oranges and pinks in the sky, and I looked out on Moonstone Hollow. This was my home, these my family. Now, the new life inside me represented hope for the future we were creating. I sat up, jolting wide awake, a sharp ache ripping through my middle. For a second, I lay there, wondering if this was another false alarm. Then another wave of pain hit, even stronger. And I knew it was happening. "Xander," I panted, waking my husband. "It's time." Xander's eyes flew open in a mix of terror and excitement. He launched himself out of bed, scurrying around the room to get dressed and to retrieve our hospital bag. "Are you sure?" he asked in a somewhat shaky voice. I nodded, teeth gritted, as another wave hit. "Positive." It seemed as though the drive to the hospital happened instantly. Xander's hands were firm on the steering wheel, but I noticed the tension in his jaw, the fast, worried glances he cast my way. When we drew closer to the entrance of the hospital, I could see someone was waiting for us. Zara, our healer and midwife, beamed at us with a reassuring smile. "Right on time," she said, helping me out of the car. "I've set up a special room for you, ready for anything unusual." As we headed to the delivery room, I felt thankful for Zara's preparation. Who could predict what might happen when giving birth to a special baby? The labor moved faster than I expected. Strange things began to happen around us. The lights in the room would not stop flickering, and once I could have sworn that the chair in the corner was floating in the air a few inches off the ground. Xander stuck right to my side, holding my hand tightly. With each strong pain, I squeezed his hand, finding strength in his steady support. "You're doing great, Aurora," he whispered, softly swiping the sweat off my forehead. "You're the most powerful person I know. You can do this." Celine rushed in. "Sorry I'm late," she panted. "The traffic was horrible. How are you going, Aurora?" Before I could reply, another sharper pain than the rest hit. I hollered in agony, like my body was being torn apart. "The baby's coming," Zara announced. "Aurora, when I say so, I need you to push." The next few minutes were really a blur of pain and hard work. I pushed as hard as I could, with Xander cheering me on and the calming words of Celine helping me through it. Finally, with one big, strong push, I felt a relief, and a small cry filled the room. "It's a boy," Zara exclaimed, holding up our son for us to see. But before I could fully process this miraculous moment, I felt another contraction building. Confusion and panic flooded through me. "Zara, what's happening?" I gasped. Zara's eyes widened in surprise as she quickly handed our son to a nurse and returned her attention to me. "It seems we have another little one on the way, Aurora. You're having twins." The room suddenly became very busy. Xander's face showed both surprise and happiness, and Celine laughed with joy. "Twins," I breathed, the word barely audible as another contraction seized me. The second birth was quicker than the first, and soon another cry joined the first. "A girl," Zara announced, her voice filled with wonder. "Congratulations, Aurora and Xander. You have a son and a daughter." As the nurses cleaned and wrapped our babies, the room was filled with a gentle, magical light. I felt it strongly inside me, a feeling of being exactly where I should be, of everything being complete. These two small beings were part of me, part of Xander, a beautiful mix of our special backgrounds. Zara brought the twins to us, carefully placing them in my arms. As I looked at their little faces, I felt a huge wave of love. Xander sat on the edge of the bed, tears falling from his eyes as he reached out to touch our children's cheeks. "They're perfect," he whispered. As Zara examined the twins more closely, her brow furrowed slightly. "How interesting," she murmured. "What is it?" I asked, a flicker of concern cutting through my exhaustion. "Look at their skin," Zara said, pointing to faint markings on the baby's arms. As we observed, the patterns appeared to move and alter, like animated tattoos. Then, as if prompted, our son opened his eyes. I gasped when I saw his irises changing color, going through a spectrum of shades. "And check this out," Xander said, softly holding our daughter's small hand. As we watched, small sparks of magical energy danced across her fingertips. "It seems your children have inherited quite a unique blend of abilities," Zara said, her voice filled with awe. The news about the twins' birth quickly reached everyone in Moonstone Hollow. All day long, people kept coming to our house to say congratulations and see the new babies in our community. Aiden was among the first to visit, and he told us about parties happening all over town to celebrate the twins. "Everyone's overjoyed," he reported. "The birth of your twins is being seen as a symbol of hope for our unified supernatural world." Even Cyrus paid us a visit, presenting 2 small, intricately crafted amulets. These should help stabilize their emerging powers, he explained, at least until they're old enough to manage them on their own. As night came, I started to see some unusual patterns in the twins' behavior. Our son became fidgety as the moon came up, his small hands opening and closing like he could sense the moon's influence. Our daughter, however, seemed to wake up in the dark, her eyes wide and attentive in the soft light of the hospital room. Lily came late in the evening to do a blessing for the twins. But as she started her chant, something unexpected occurred. The baby's natural magic seemed to respond to Lily's spells, creating swirls of colorful energy around the room. "Well," Lily said, looking surprised but happy, "it looks like these little ones are going to keep us busy." The following morning, as sunlight filled the room, I observed another intriguing change. Our son's skin appeared to glisten softly in the light, similar to how a vampire might react to sunlight, but gentler and more delicate. Our daughter's eyes briefly shone, catching the light like a cat's. As we got ready to bring the twins home, Xander and I exchanged a glance that mixed excitement with worry. "We'll need to make the house safe for them," Xander said, "and that means more than just physical dangers." I nodded, considering all the magical safeguards we'd have to set up. Definitely an adventure for sure. When we got home after what felt like forever, guess what? Some of our family were there waiting for us. The front yard was decked out with balloons and banners, and oh, man, you could smell the delicious grub from a mile away. We introduced the twins to all present, and I couldn't fail to observe their reaction to different supernatural beings. Near the vampires, their skin seemed to glow faintly. When the werewolves held them, they gurgled happily, as if recognizing kindred spirits. In the witch's embrace, they softly hummed, almost like they were trying to copy the rhythm of magic spells. That evening, while Xander and I were putting the twins to bed for their first night at home, we found another unexpected thing. Each baby seemed to require a unique bedtime routine. Our son fell asleep with the howling of wolves, our daughter with the soft chanting of witch lullabies. This was like taking an eternity until we could get both babies sleeping in the crib. Xander and I just fell onto our bed. We were exhausted, really, but happy. "Can you believe it?" I whispered, not wanting to risk waking the twins. "We're parents, to twins." Xander pulled me close, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "They're amazing, Aurora, just like their mother." We were silent for quite some time, lost in our thoughts. Finally, I spoke about my concern that had been haunting me since the birth of the twins. "Xander," I said gently, "what if we're not prepared for this? These aren't just regular babies. They have abilities we don't fully grasp. What if we can't provide what they need?" Xander was silent for a moment, his hand softly running through my hair. "We might not know everything," he said eventually, "but we have each other. We'll figure it out together as always." His words comforted me as they always did. He was right, we were not alone in it. We had created a community, a family that went beyond just the two of us. Our children would grow up with all different kinds of supernatural beings showing them love and support too. "You're right," I said, snuggling in closer to him. "We can handle this, together." A soft cry from the nursery interrupted our moment. We both chuckled, the reality of our new life settling in. "I'll go," Xander said, pressing a quick kiss to my lips before getting up. I was listening to the soothing noises of Xander trying to put our baby girl back to sleep, and I couldn't help but get all curious, so tiptoed to the nursery. When I peeked in, my heart totally melted. Xander was just standing there, swaying back and forth with her in his arms like the sweetest dad ever, trying to get her to sleep off again. It was the cutest thing. Our son lay completely oblivious to the world, going in and out with every breath he took. The room was dimly lit, bathed in a soft, magical glow that seemed to emanate either from the nightlight or from our children themselves. As I watched, our daughter's cries softened, and she nestled happily against Xander's chest. He looked up, saw me, and smiled, a smile full of love, wonder, and a touch of the nervousness we both shared. I wrapped one arm around Xander's waist and gently touched our son's cheek with my other hand as I approached them. We were in silent awe for a moment. Miracles we'd built between us. "What should we name them?" Xander whispered. We had talked about names previously, but nothing seemed to fit. Now, however, with our kids in our arms, something just clicked. Kaya, I said softly, moving my fingers through our daughter's hair. Xander nodded, a smile starting to curve his lips. I considered that for a moment, my mind straying back to the strange shifting colors of his eyes, like those within the constant flux of a sky. Cade, I said. Kaya and Cade, Xander repeated softly, our little moon and sky. Both babies, as if recognizing their names, stirred slightly in their sleep. Kaya's fingers twitched, releasing a small spark of magic that leaped into the air before dissipating. Cade's skin shimmered in response like moonlight on water. We tucked Kaya back in the crib next to her brother and covered them snugly. We stepped back, and I felt this. Emotion, love, fear, excitement all tumbled together in a potent cocktail of new parenthood. I love you, I whispered, rubbing myself along his solid heat. I love you too, he replied, and the arms tightened around me. All three of you. I stared at our sleeping children and thought about the long journey that had brought us to this spot. From the time I first entered Moonstone Hollow through all the battles, forged alliances, and into this new chapter in our lives, every step led to this happy moment. I didn't know what trials tomorrow would have in store. Raising twins with completely unpredictable supernatural abilities was sure to be an adventure different from anything we'd ever been through. But standing here in the nursery with the love of my family, I felt ready for whatever came our way. Because we weren't just Aurora and Xander anymore. We were a family. Kaya and Cade, the moon and the sky. And we'd write together the next chapter in the ongoing story of Moonstone Hollow. We slipped silently out of the nursery, leaving our sleeping children to their dreams, and I felt a feeling of tranquility fall around me. Whatever the future held, we would face it together, families, communities, one united supernatural world. And that thought filled me with joy and anticipation of the journey ahead. The soft glow of the nursery followed us down the hall, a gentle reminder of the magic now building in our lives in an utterly new way. Tired, but so much happier than I'd ever thought possible, Xander and I sank back into bed, knowing our biggest adventure was just beginning. And I couldn't wait to see where it would take us. Katie and Kaya's yelling woke me up from a dead sleep. I squinted my eyes open, letting them get used to the dim light peeking through the curtains before the sun was even up. Next to me, Xander moved slightly, his eyes meeting mine with a mix of tiredness and deep love. We exchanged a tired but happy smile, feeling the warmth of our new life as parents envelop us. I got them, Xander whispered, giving me a light kiss on the forehead and getting out of bed. Good morning, little one, he whispered, holding our son up against his chest. Were you missing me? I walked to Kaya and picked her up carefully from her crib. Her baby scent was amazing. I whispered, "Hi, sweetie," and swayed her gently. Soon, she stopped crying and just whimpered quietly. Looking at her, I thought, wow, she's really ours. It was hard to believe. Xander nodded, his eyes filled with emotion. It's amazing. They're so perfect. After the twins were fed and changed, Xander insisted on making breakfast while I rested. I protested at first, but he was adamant. You need your strength, he said, kissing me softly. I've got this. I relented, settling onto the couch with Kaya while Xander headed to the kitchen. Cade nestled securely in one arm. From my vantage point, I could see him moving about the kitchen with surprising grace, managing to flip pancakes one-handed while keeping Cade entertained. Look at you, Super Dad, I teased as he expertly slid a stack of golden pancakes onto a plate. Xander grinned, a touch of pride in his eyes. I contain multitudes, he quipped, making his way to the living room with our breakfast. I think we should take them for their first walk around Moonstone Hollow, I suggested. Everyone's been dying to meet them. Xander nodded enthusiastically. That's a fantastic idea. It'll be nice for all of us to have some fresh air. An hour later, we were walking down the main street of Moonstone Hollow, with the twins safely in their double stroller. It felt like everyone in town had come out to welcome us, smiling at Cade and Kaya and saying congratulations. Lily rushed out of her shop as we passed, her arms laden with various charms and talismans. For protection and good fortune, she explained, draping them carefully over the stroller. Aiden, Cyrus, and some pack members met us in the town square, each of them taking turns to gently scent the twins, welcoming them into the pack. I watched, amused, as Cade's tiny nose wrinkled, taking in the unfamiliar smells. "They're strong," Cyrus observed, peering down at the twins with an unreadable expression. "Their auras are unique, perfect," he said firmly, a hint of challenge in his voice. Aiden nodded, a rare smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Indeed they are. You should be very proud." When I got home, I found some chores that needed doing. They had been waiting for a few days. The twins were sleeping quietly in their playpen. This was my chance to clean up the living room. I figured I could use a simple magic spell to help me tidy it up. As I started saying the spell, I felt a rush of magical power. Before I could do anything, soap bubbles started appearing in the air, growing quickly until the room was full of shiny, colorful bubbles. "Aurora?" Xander called from the kitchen, sounding both puzzled and amused. "What's happening in there?" I think Kaya might have assisted with my spell. I managed between giggles, gesturing to where our daughter lay in her playpen, her tiny hands reaching out towards the bubbles floating above her. Xander crossed the room, carefully navigating through the sea of bubbles to wrap his arms around me. "Well, at least the place smells clean," he teased, pressing a kiss to my temple. As evening approached, Xander announced that it was time for the twins' first bath. We gathered the necessary supplies and filled the sink with warm water, both of us a little nervous about the task ahead. "All right, little buddy," Xander said, carefully putting Cade into the water. "Let's get you nice and clean." As soon as Cade's skin touched the water, something amazing happened. His whole body started to sparkle, making bright patterns of light all over the kitchen. Xander and I were amazed as the lights moved and changed, turning our regular kitchen into a colorful, swirling wonder. "It's so pretty," I whispered, gently placing Kaya in the water next to her brother. To our amazement, Kaya's presence seemed to amplify the effect, became brighter and more intricate, forming beautiful patterns that captivated us. "They're amazing," Xander whispered, his voice filled with feeling. "Our tiny wonders." We carefully bathed the twins, both of us wishing this moment would never end. When we finally wrapped them in warm towels, their skin still softly glowing, I felt a strong sense of awe for the magical creatures we had brought into the world. As night fell, Xander suggested we take the twins out to the porch swing. We settled in, each of us holding a sleeping baby, and watched as the moon rose over Moonstone Hollow. The air felt cool and nice, with soft sounds of crickets and leaves moving. "I love you," Xander said quietly, looking at me with eyes that sparkled in the moonlight. "All three of you, more than I ever imagined." I moved closer and gave him a gentle kiss. "We love you too," I whispered, still close to his lips. "So much." I woke up in the night, and Xander was not beside me. I went to the nursery and found him softly singing a lullaby I'd never heard before to Kaya. Normally, his voice is strong, but this song to our daughter was gentle and calm. I stood by the doorway, not wanting to break the lovely moment. As he finished the lullaby, Xander glanced up and gave a tiny, shy grin. "Did I wake you?" he whispered. I just shook my head and went to stand by him at the baby's crib. "It was beautiful. Where did you learn it?" "My mom used to sing it to me. I thought it might help Kaya feel closer to her roots," he said. "It's beautiful," I whispered. "We'll have to teach it to Cade, too." The next evening, Xander and I attempted to have a romantic dinner at home. We had put the twins down for a nap, set the table with candles and our best dishes, and Xander even managed to cook this beautiful meal. We had just sat down, holding glasses of wine, when a cry came from the nursery. I exchanged a knowing look with Xander before he stood up to check on the twins. The instant he was gone, 2 candles on the table whirled into a wild dance. I watched, amusement dancing in my chest, as they swayed, clearly affected by at least one magical talent that was increasing inside Kaya. Xander returned a few minutes later, Cade in his arms. "Someone needed a diaper change," he explained, settling back into his chair. We had barely taken a bite of our food when Kaya began to fuss. This time, I went to tend to her, leaving Xander to entertain Cade. "Not quite the romantic evening we planned," Xander chuckled as we finally collapsed onto the couch, the twins sleeping soundly in their swings nearby. I leaned on him, feeling completely happy. "I think it's really wonderful," I whispered. Xander's eyes became gentle as he looked at me. "You're right," he whispered, moving closer to give me a soft kiss. "It is perfect." The next day, we decided it was time to properly baby-proof the house. While Xander focused on installing physical barriers, cabinet locks, outlet covers, and the like, I worked on setting up magical wards to protect our little ones from any supernatural threats. As I moved from room to room, weaving protective spells into the very fabric of our home, Xander and I discussed our hopes and fears for Cade and Kaya's future. "I worry about how they'll fit in," I admitted, pausing in my spellcasting to watch Xander secure a bookshelf to the wall. "They're so unique." Xander straightened, his expression thoughtful. "That's true. They'll be able to bridge the gaps between all the supernatural communities. They could bring about a new era of unity," he said. I smiled. "They're going to make a huge difference, aren't they?" I asked. "Totally," Xander nodded, giving me a tight hug. "We'll support them all the way." After lunch, I saw Xander in his office, really focused on something at his desk. Curious, I approached him from behind so that I may see what held all of his attention. I saw amazing drawings on his desk. They showed Cade sleeping and Kaya looking curiously at something outside the page. I whispered to Xander, hugging him from behind, "These are incredible." He leaned back into my embrace, a soft smile playing at his lips. "I want to capture every moment," he explained. My heart filled with affection for him. He just keeps surprising and amazing me. "We should put these in frames," I said. "They're too beautiful to stay hidden in your sketchbook." The next day, we needed to get some magical supplies, so we decided to take the twins and visit Lily's shop. As soon as we walked in, the usually neat shop turned into a mess. Kaya, excited by all the magical energy, started giggling. With each laugh, ingredients flew off the shelves, spinning around in the air in a crazy dance. "Oh my," Lily exclaimed, ducking as a jar of pixie dust whizzed past her head. "She's certainly got some power, doesn't she?" Xander and I scrambled to catch the floating items, apologizing profusely as we tried to restore order to the shop. But Lily just laughed, clearly delighted by the display of magic. "No need to worry, sweethearts," she said, brushing aside our worries. "It's been ages since this old store has had so much excitement. Now let's find what you need." When we finally left the store, carrying bags full of supplies and a few extra charms, just in case, as Lily mentioned, we were all tired but very happy. The twins, worn out from their magical adventure, fell asleep as soon as we got them home. As the weeks went by, Xander and I got used to our routine with the twins. We learned to appreciate the peaceful moments in the middle of the busy life of being new parents, like the day we decided to have a picnic in our backyard. We laid out a blanket under the big oak tree, making a comfy spot with pillows for the twins. As we enjoyed our lunch, soaking in the warm sun and each other's company, Cade let out a really happy giggle. We were amazed when the flowers around us started to bloom, with their petals opening up in a burst of colors that covered the whole yard. Xander and I were amazed as our simple backyard turned into a beautiful paradise, all because of our son's happy laughter. "Well," Xander said, his voice filled with awe, "I guess we know who's going to be in charge of the gardening when they're older." I laughed, leaning into his side as we watched Cade and Kaya coo at the flowers surrounding them. "Yeah, definitely going to keep us busy anyway." It was on one very long evening, when the twins were in bed and soft music filled the room, that Xander surprised me. He held out his hand with a warm smile on his face and said, "Can I have this dance?" I took his hand and let him draw me near as we began swaying softly to the music. As we danced together, I laid my head on Xander's chest. His heart rhythm was calm and comforting. He gently hugged me and kissed my forehead. "I truly love you," he murmured. "More and more each day." I looked up at him with my heart about to burst. "I truly love you too," I murmured, standing on my tippy toes to give him a smooch. But then little kid hands started clapping, breaking us. We turned to see Cade and Kaya watching us from their playpen, their little faces alight with joy as they applauded our dance. Xander laughed as he picked up Cade and I lifted Kaya. We danced on, spinning and swaying softly until the twins fell asleep in our arms. The very next day, Xander disappeared into his workshop for hours and refused to tell me what he was doing. When he emerged, he had a beautiful handmade mobile for the nursery. Oh, Xander, I said in surprise, looking at the tiny moons, stars, and magical creatures hanging from the carefully balanced arms. It's beautiful. We hung it above the twins' crib together, watching as it began to move slowly. The evening wind gently moved my hair as I stood on the balcony, with Kaya resting comfortably in my arms. Next to me, Xander held Cade, whose small hand was wrapped around his father's thumb. I felt a deep sense of contentment as I looked out over the serene, lovely Moonstone Hollow. I can hardly believe it's been a year already, I whispered, looking down into Kaya's sweet face. Xander shook his head, a soft smile playing at his lips. It's gone by so fast, he agreed, gently bouncing Cade as our son began to fuss. But look at how much they've grown. I nodded, remembering the busy year we've had. It feels like just yesterday. We brought the twins home from the hospital, both scared and excited. Now at 1 year old, Cade and Kaya are already showing signs of their special background. Last week, Cade made all the flowers in our garden bloom at once when he laughed during a fun game of peekaboo. And Kaya, not wanting to be left out, made a beautiful light show during her bath, with the water shining with magical energy that moved and twirled as she wanted. But it wasn't just their magical abilities that blew my mind. It was how quickly they were growing and how individual personalities were already evident. Cade, who would usually be more serious, would readily focus, frowning slightly as he stacked his blocks, determined to build the tallest tower he could. Kaya was our little entertainer, always ready with a big toothy smile or a playful laugh. They're really something, aren't they? Xander said, like he was reading my mind. I leaned into his side, careful not to squish Kaya between us. They really are. We did good, Mr. Alpha. Xander chuckled, pressing a kiss to the top of my head. That we did, Mrs. Alpha. The sound of a car pulling into our driveway drew our attention. I smiled as I recognized Lily's sensible sedan, excitement bubbling up inside me. This would be our first time meeting her newborn son. Looks like we have visitors, Xander said, already heading back inside. I followed close behind, eager to greet our friend and her new addition. Lily appeared glowing as she walked into our living room, even though her eyes showed she was tired from being a new mom. She held a small, wrapped-up baby in a gentle blue blanket. Aurora, Xander, she said to us with a friendly smile. Meet Elias. I gasped softly as she tilted the bundle, revealing the most perfect little face I'd ever seen, well, aside from Cade and Kaya, of course. Elias blinked up at us with curious eyes, his tiny fist waving in the air. Oh, Lily, I breathed. He's beautiful. We sat down on the couch with the twins playing around our feet while we admired baby Elias. Soon enough, Lily and I were deep into discussing the highs and lows of being a new mom, sharing stories, comparing tips. I had no idea it would be so exhausting, Lily said, muffling a yawn. But when he smiles at me, it makes everything worth it. I nodded in understanding. It gets easier, I assured her, and harder, in different ways. But you're doing great? While we were talking, Xander kept the twins happy, and his hearty laugh mixed with their cheerful squeals. I couldn't help but grin at my small family, so full of happiness and love. Our quiet afternoon was suddenly broken by a knock on the door. Xander got up to open it, and soon came back with Celine, who had her 3-month-old daughter Arya in her arms. We hope we're not bothering you, Celine said, her eyes shining. Arya was getting cranky at home, so I thought a new place might cheer her up. I waved off her concerns, making room on the couch. The more, the merrier. Come sit. Let's see how much Arya's grown. As Celine settled in, Arya immediately reached out towards Kaya, who was watching the newcomer with wide-eyed fascination. We set the babies down gingerly beside each other so that they could play together. Indeed, and unbelievably, it seemed to us, they played with each other. Isn't it amazing? Celine said thoughtfully, as she watched Arya and Kaya talk to each other in their special baby way. A year ago, we couldn't have envisioned this. I nodded, remembering the disputes which once divided our peoples. We've come a long way, I agreed, and this is just the start. Just then, my phone rang. I stepped aside to answer it, smiling as I saw Luna's name pop up on the screen. Luna! I greeted her. How are you feeling? Pregnant, Luna replied with a laugh. Very, very pregnant. Actually, I'm calling to tell you that I just finished talking to Zara, and you won't believe what happened. She's pregnant, too. I gasped in delight. Luna, that's wonderful news. Oh, we have to celebrate. What do you think about a big get-together? We could invite everyone in town and turn it into a big community celebration. Luna's excitement came through clearly over the phone. That sounds great. Let's make it happen. After ending the call, I went back to the living room, full of excitement as I shared the news. Xander, the organizer, immediately began planning. We could have it in the town square, he suggested. A big picnic with games for the kids and plenty of food for everyone. What do you think? I smiled at him. I think that is a great idea. Let's do it this weekend. The following days were filled with busy preparations. Xander handled the arrangements, working with the town council to reserve the square and organize food and activities. I just spread the word, making sure everyone in the supernatural community knew they were invited and wanted at the event. The day of the picnic finally arrived. I was amazed at the turnout. It felt like the whole of Moonstone Hollow had appeared to join in the festivities, and the town square was filled with so many familiar faces, all laughing together in happiness. As we mingled with friends and neighbors, I couldn't help but be amazed at what we had accomplished. Werewolves and vampires spoke easily. Witches shared magical tips with interested humans, and children of all the different supernatural sects played unselfishly. Cade and Kaya, always the center of attention, delighted the crowd with impromptu displays of their growing powers. Cade, giggling with joy, caused a burst of wildflowers to sprout beneath his feet, while Kaya conjured shimmering lights that danced through the air like fireflies. Not to be outdone, Lily and Aiden's son Elias revealed some budding talents of his own. While Aiden playfully bounced him on his knee, Elias's eyes began to sparkle, and suddenly the air around them was filled with glowing forms of butterflies and dragonflies. The children around them shrieked in delight, trying to catch the magical insects that popped into hissing, sparkling smoke when touched. Not to be left out of any fun, Arya, who is Selene and Jackson's daughter, surprised everyone during a game of peekaboo with Xander. When he covered his eyes, Arya let out a happy giggle, and her appearance began to change. Small fangs appeared in her smile, and a soft layer of fur covered her chubby cheeks. Xander's eyes widened in surprise, then he smiled broadly as he picked up Arya, spinning her around while she happily yipped. "Look at you, little pup," he said proudly. "You're going to be a strong wolf like your daddy one day." As the afternoon went on, I found myself speaking with Luna and Zara. Each of them was glowing joyously, expecting to be mothers. We spoke about our feelings while carrying our pregnancies and our future dreams and worries. "I never thought I'd be happy about feeling sick in the morning," Luna said, bursting out laughing. "But every time I feel nauseous, it reminds me that there's a little baby growing inside me." I smiled quietly, thinking back to my pregnancy with my twins. "It's a great feeling," I told them. "And you will love it when you can feel those first little kicks. There's nothing quite like it." As the sun started to set, Xander asked everyone to listen. He stood on a simple platform, looking at the people gathered there, his eyes full of feelings. "Dear friends and family of Moonstone Hollow," he started, his voice clear and confident. "As I see all of you here today, I feel a strong sense of pride and thankfulness. Not long ago, many of us were divided, held apart by fear and confusion." He gestured widely, encompassing the diverse group before him. Werewolves, vampires, witches, and humans, no longer standing in front of each other as alien bodies, as divided groups, as them and us. Today we rise above the differences that once managed to divide us, taught ourselves the strengths of each other, a home for all. I locked eyes with Xander in the crowd, and my heart filled with love. None of this could have happened without the constant love and support from my wife Aurora. Together, we faced adversity I'd never thought we would have to face. We came out stronger because of it. He turned his attention to where Katie and Kaya sat playing with their friends. "And now, as we look to the future, I see hope. Hope in the faces of our children, who will grow up knowing no boundaries between supernatural beings. Hope in the new lives about to join our community, bringing with them endless possibilities." As Xander finished speaking, I needed to say something too. I joined him on stage and turned toward the people gathered there. More than neighbors, they were almost family. "What Xander said is right," I began, my voice stirred with emotion. We have come such a long way and done so much, but this journey is only just beginning. As our kids grow up and our community gets larger, we really have the opportunity to create something special. A place where everyone can be happy and belong, regardless of what kind of powers they have. When I was done speaking, everybody applauded loudly. I saw that a few people had watery eyes, and this in turn made my eyes water. The rest of the evening was just filled with so much joys and pleasures. As it grew darker, I helped the other witches create magical lanterns. These magical lanterns levitated above the square, casting the whole celebration into a warm, magical light. Xander led the howl, up to the moonlight. Together, their voices sounded spooky and beautiful, sending chills down my spine. The vampires began to dance in the air to move skyward in impossible ways that stole the breath of those onlookers below. At the end of the night, we sat in a circle, holding hands down, werewolves, vampires, witches, and humans, all together. At that very moment, something great overpowered me, and it was something that I had never felt before. This was not ordinary magic. It was deeper, more meaningful. The power of togetherness, the acceptance of one another, of love. Later that night, when all our goodbyes were said and done and everyone headed home, Xander and I were standing in the nursery, watching Cade and Kaya sleep peacefully in their cribs. The soft moonlight filtered through the window and gently shone down upon their sweet faces. "We did it," I whispered, leaning back into Xander's chest as he wrapped his arms around me. "We really did it." Xander pressed a kiss to my temple. "We did," he agreed. "But as you said, this is just the start. There's still a lot to do, a lot to create." I turned to him now and looked up into his eyes. "I couldn't wait," I breathed. "Whatever comes next, whatever problems we have to face, I'm so glad it's going to be you there facing them with me." Xander's eyes grew gentle, filled with a love so strong it took my breath away. "Forever," he vowed. "You and me, Aurora. Together we can do anything.